Oh, fuck you, standard hyperbole. Jesus. There is no way that was just standard hyperbole. Fuck you. Sorry. I'm getting this set up while
they represent.
I'm streaming.
You don't understand why they were here. They're scared to death we're going to go back to the days without Donald Trump of hundreds of thousands of people crossing this border every month. They're scared to
They're
death
not.
nobody's going to keep our manufacturing here. They're scared to death that
That's not
nobody
gonna
else will
happen.
fight the cancel culture as we head towards an
That's
era
not a
where
thing.
some things can't be said. They're scared to death that a majority party got here by teaming up with Black Lives Matter, a bunch of founded by Marxists and that dislike a family.
The gentleman's time's expired.
Yeah, fuck
The
you.
gentleman from
Sit the
Ohio
fuck
wishes
down.
to reserve.
Reserve.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from California, Mr. Garamendi.
The gentleman from
bunch of
California
bullshit.
is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I rise today determined to fulfill our sacred oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Last week's violent insurrection on the Capitol is a
I
stain
feel like
on our
them saying this
democracy.
is just
A
balloon juice at
riotous
this
mob,
moment. Who cares about
incited by the president,
whatever?
stormed
Decorum
these
is
very
just
halls,
such a
beat and murdered police officers, planted
such a
pipe
funky
bombs,
thing.
and left our nation shocked and in mourning.
partially why we can't
The
get anything
president's
done.
rhetoric, actions, and refusal to accept responsibilities are an imminent threat to our nation. I vote to impeach the president. I urge my
The
colleagues to do the
gentleman's
same.
time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
Gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is
Madam
recognized.
Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Krishnamurthy.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
How the fuck does
Madam
anything
Speaker,
get
my
done?
parents brought me as an infant to America because they knew it's the land of democracy. It's the beacon of hope for all the world. We called it the American dream. When Donald Trump told rioters to go to the Capitol and quote unquote fight like hell, he incited an attack on the Capitol and the ideals comprising the American dream. I'm voting for impeachment because I know we're still the country my parents believed in, and I will fight like hell for it. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Lawrence.
The gentlewoman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Chair, on Wednesday the 6th, Democrats and Republicans hid on the floor, put on gas masks, and was ushered out of this room. We in this country cannot begin healing and unity without accountability and justice. The President of the United States incited a violent insurrection against Congress, you, me, and the Vice President of the United States. This cannot be ignored. Impeach now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York continues to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to
Ohio.
reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady
I'm
from
gonna
California,
eat some of this
Ms.
delicious
Lee.
bagel dog
The
that I made for myself.
woman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Just has to cool down. Still hot. Still
Madam
hot.
Speaker.
Hot to the touch.
On January 6, Donald Trump incited his white nationalist supporters to initiate an attempted coup against the heart of our democracy, the United States
He did do
Capitol.
that.
This heinous
He
act
did do
of
that.
domestic terrorism demands that Congress act to remove this president. Donald Trump has been and remains a threat to our national security and our democracy, and wholly unfit to serve as president. He and his supporters must be held accountable for inciting violence against the government of the United States. Congress must act immediately to remove this clear and present
gentleman's
danger to
time
our
has
country. It's
expired.
time to impeach Donald Trump
The
again.
gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats
No
have
cities
spent
have been burnt
all
down.
this
Which city
time
was burned down?
endorsing and enabling violent riots
Which city was burned
that
down?
left billions in property damage and
I'd be happy to know.
47 dead across the United States. Democrats are on
I'm sorry,
record
47
supporting
dead?
violence
Who?
when it serves their cause. In their
Are they
own
talking about the
words, on
people
social
who died
media,
because of the
on
police?
interviews, and on fundraising platforms at Blue. Democrats support defunding the police when it's someone else's city, someone else's home, and someone else's
Bagel
business.
dog.
Democrats
So
will
good.
take away everyone's guns just as
No, they
long
won't.
as they have guards with guns. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence
What?
against the American people. I yield back. Thank
Wait.
you.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, for 2 months, Donald Trump used the biggest megaphone in the world to organize a campaign of outright lies to overturn a free and fair election. On January 6th, he summoned and incited a mob of domestic terrorists to fight like hell and sent them to ransack this Capitol in order to prevent us from formalizing his election loss. It was a grotesque orgy of deadly white supremacism, anti-Semitism, and strongman rule. Today, we will do our duty and vote to remove the author of this horrifying chapter and banish him from public service. I yield back.
The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
Can I
recognized.
inquire, Madam Speaker, can I inquire on the time again?
The gentleman from Ohio has 20 minutes remaining. And the gentleman from New York has 21 3/4 minutes remaining.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr. Levin.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, what each of us chooses to do today, whether we vote to hold this president to account or look the other way, will we be remembered by history, by our children and their children. The facts are
And the
clear.
people who voted
The evidence
to not
of Trump's
impeach.
insurrection overwhelming. History calls on us to do what's right
be remembered
rather
when their
than
term is
just
up.
politically expedient. Let us look back on
Oh.
this day with honor, not disgrace.
I was born in
knowing
Oceanside.
We were up to the oath we all took. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Luria.
The gentlewoman from Virginia is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the perpetrators of this heinous attack on our nation's democracy were Americans.
I find it strange that you can say
encouraged and emboldened
borderline
by
whatever you
President
want
Trump, because he could not accept the outcome of a free and fair election.
during
His
like when
actions are
your
seditious,
speech is
and
going,
the
but
president has
the act
proven
like when
that
you're
he is not fit to
observing
serve.
decorum, you can't.
History will look back on this
It's
moment
weird.
to see who stood strong in support of American democracy.
Another
As
history
my
will look
colleagues have
back.
said, we must come together, but our nation cannot begin to heal until there is
The gentlewoman's time
accountability
has
for
expired.
the atrocity.
The
committed
gentlewoman's time has
last week.
expired.
I yield back.
The gentlewoman. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Clyde.
The gentleman from Georgia, is it?
Yeah, the gentleman from Georgia,
1
1 minute.
is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in opposition to the effort to impeach President Trump. This course of action will only increase dissent and disunity across our country, and it flies in the
Disunity.
face of all efforts to
Interesting
heal our nation.
new word.
Quite simply, it is a shameful final act of political retribution, retribution this president
back.
has weathered since day one. I have no doubt that those who breached the Capitol will have due process and their day in court. However, there will be no investigation in the People's House into whether the allegation against the president meets the criteria for a crime worthy of impeachment. No evidence was presented, no witness testified, no cross-examination was conducted, no due process was afforded, and that sets an extremely dangerous precedence for the future. If my
Yeah, no, the
Democratic
precedent
colleagues were
that we're-
serious in their
that we're-
efforts to get to the truth,
No.
they would convene the
No.
House Judiciary Committee
No.
and investigate, but they are not.
The precedent that we're trying to set is that no sitting president can actively incite a riot against his own country or against his own governmental bodies
All members of the House
in an effort to
do the
overturn an
same.
election.
I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. McBath.
The gentlewoman from Georgia is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise with a heavy heart for what our nation has endured. All those who've incited an attack
1 minute
on
to
these halls
speak.
of freedom must never forget that in every generation, Americans of all colors and creeds have laid down their lives in the struggles against tyranny, the fight against fascism, and the defense against those who would betray the values upon which this nation was founded. It is our duty to shoulder that defense of our democracy here today. The President's actions have laid bare his contempt for our Constitution, and he must be removed.
I don't necessarily think it's
Gentleman's time has
contempt. I think
expired.
it's
The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio.
ignorance, willful
The
ignorance.
gentleman from Ohio wishes to
We reserve.
reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Meeks.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
The armed insurrectionists that stormed the Capitol did not emerge out of a vacuum. They were lied to by Republican senators and Republican congressmen and women.
The people
But they
sitting
were
in these
incited
very
by
fucking
the
chambers.
man above all else, Donald J. Trump, who tried to be the ultimate ruler of our democracy. The world is watching. Our allies are watching, and our adversaries are watching. And we must show them
Do you think
that
they're
no
fucking
one will rule this country
twiddling their, or
will
what
be
knows,
and be
wringing
above the
their
law.
hands?
The cameras of history are rolling. We must act. We must impeach Donald
The
J.
gentleman's
Trump to
time
show
has
the world
expired.
that we will stand for right.
The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Utah.
The gentleman from Utah is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last Wednesday, on my third day, I realized that I can make hard and seemingly unpopular decisions. Voting to strip Electoral College votes from states is a dangerous precedent set by Democrats many years ago, perpetuated by my party as well. I heard nothing in those debates that justified such a high bar. A rushed impeachment will set a similar precedent. Without a single hearing or investigation, I simply cannot reach the high bar of impeachment. To my district,
Investigation?
I commit to constantly being
Aren't a bunch of
objective
people in
all of
custody
my
right now?
decision making. And as I abandon the remainder of my remarks, as I listen to this debate, it's no wonder our nation is divided. We are on an absolute race to the bottom. And I was hoping that last week
Put this
would
man's
have hit
name on
rock
screen. Come on.
I commit to doing better, and I hope that we all can dig in and find a way. Thank you.
The gentleman yields back his time. The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from
So he's
New York
objecting to
is
impeachment.
recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to
Because
the
why?
gentlelady from Ohio, Ms. Beatty.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you. Domestic terrorists attacked our democracy, urged on by a sitting president. These insurrectionists believe Donald Trump's lies
guys
about the
barking
stolen
today?
election.
The dogs are
They
barking
obeyed
extra
his
crazy
call
today.
to attack. They literally carried his banner while storming the Capitol. Last week's insurrection was shocking and tragic. It was a culmination of 4 years of assaults on our democracy. We must impeach this president, and the Congressional Black Caucus stands ready to join.
She's
in
done
a
something crazy with her
bipartisan
mask there.
message to the
She's,
likes of Donald Trump.
I think the mask has gone a little higher than it should.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker,
York!
I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Wisconsin, Ms. Moore.
The gentlewoman from Wisconsin is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, the president radicalized American citizens, and as his vice president fled from a lynch mob, the speaker cowered while people died.
Yeah.
He watched.
5
with
people
glee.
died.
That is why, even though it's only 7 days before the end of his term, we have the fierce urgency of now. 7 days is too long for him
I
to
just
be in
don't think that
power.
most people who are in politics
declassified
understand how
state
politics
secrets.
works. I don't. I'm not saying that I do, but I very strongly believe that a lot of the people who have been elected to office.
Time has expired.
The person
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam
Who's
Speaker.
shouting?
I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise with great sorrow to oppose this second
Oh,
attempt
fuck
at a baseless
you.
impeachment from my Democrat colleagues.
Baseless?
This week's attack on the U.S. Capitol was completely unacceptable, and the people involved should be met with swift accountability.
How is that
The
baseless?
president didn't incite a riot. The president didn't lead an
What?
insurrection, and there are no high crimes and misdemeanors requisite of an impeachment. I'm not saying the president didn't exercise poor judgment, but to criminalize
So
political
remove it.
speech by
Do you want a
blaming
president who
lawless acts on the
expresses poor
president's
judgment
rhetoric
4
is
fucking
wrong,
years in a
Madam
row?
Speaker, and a very dangerous precedent. The
No,
criminals
no,
who stormed
dangerous,
the Capitol
good
that
precedent
day
that you
acted on
cannot
their own volition.
lead an
They're
insurrection against
responsible
your own
for their
country.
actions. This is an important moment, Madam Speaker, for our nation. We have the opportunity to come together and do what's right.
Remember
for our
that name,
country.
Jody Arrington.
The votes are certified.
What a
President
fuck.
Trump has conceded. Let's focus on
He
the
has not. He
future
never
and get
conceded.
back
He never
to the
conceded.
people's business. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
And if he could still tweet, he would
Madam
tweet,
Speaker,
I
now
never
yield 30
conceded.
seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Newman.
The gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
What a slippery
Thank you,
fucking
Madam Speaker.
douche.
It's an honor to speak today. So today I stand with this body to impeach this president. I agree with my Democratic colleagues. I also agree with my Republican colleagues. Let's unite. Let's unite to address this pandemic and start by simply wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Let's unite to bring back
Why
the
did we have
economy
to
and start by
institute
putting
fines
$2,000 checks
for
in
elected
people's
officials
pockets.
who won't
And let's unite to hold
wear masks?
these domestic terrorists accountable and impeach this president. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I yield back.
The
Very well
gentlewoman yields
said.
back. The gentleman
Very
from New
well
York
said.
reserves. The
We should get
gentleman
together.
from Ohio is recognized. The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is
Madam
recognized.
Speaker, could you, how much time do I have, please?
The gentleman from New York has 18 and 1/4 minute, and the gentleman from Ohio, 17 minutes remaining.
Thank you very much. I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey.
I just cannot
Mr.
find a good
Norcross.
place to put this
The
mic
gentleman
where I
from
can
New
sit
Jersey
comfortably.
is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today at a time of historical concern. Last week on this very House floor, an attack on democracy, that symbol. But it was an attack from within. This very floor. Let's be clear. Cause and effect. Rally at the White House, march down Pennsylvania Avenue, a parade in reverse, and an attack to this chamber. A police officer was killed. And what I hear is time to heal. He's not even buried yet. It's clear and present danger. No one is above the law. Not the president.
Not the president.
He has 4 years
Yeah.
and 4 days. We must do the right thing for all Americans because he must be held accountable.
Is he okay? Did he? It
Gentleman
seems
yields
like
back. The gentleman from New
he's
York
got some-
reserves. The gentleman from Ohio
Thank
is
you, Madam
recognized.
Speaker. I would yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Indiana, Ms.
cognitive
Sparks.
The
issues.
gentlewoman from Indiana is recognized for 1 minute.
I do too.
Madam
I mean,
Speaker, I appreciate
I have
variety
like a
of
slight
opinions,
slur in my
but
speech.
any accusations must go through the proper due process.
But I don't know
whether
if
it's
that's
election
because he's
fraud
from the South,
or
because
an
that's
impeachable
why
offense.
I have a slight slur in
And
my
someone
speech.
who did not support
Or
the
if he's
objection
from,
to
or if he just
certification
like had
last
like
week,
stroke or
I will not support
I
this political charade.
people who have
today.
that notice when
The
other people
rule
have
of
it.
law and due
Just saying.
process is
Due
vital
process.
to what our constitutional republic
Due
stands for.
process.
Congress should stop playing divisive politics and start working on delivering real good policies for the American people. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back.
Okay.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves his time. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker,
couldn't quite
I now yield
understand her
30 seconds
stance.
to the distinguished gentleman from California, Mr.
The gentleman
Panetta.
from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
A week ago was the culmination of carnage caused to our country by this president. 4 years ago, he said he would stop such devastation. Instead, the president has continued to debase our democracy with assaults on our elections and incitement at the ellipse and the battery at our Capitol. American exceptionalism is not guaranteed. We must always work to grow it, and that includes our work today to hold President Trump accountable. American carnage started with this president. A vote for impeachment will stop it for our posterity. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Pocan.
The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The U.S. Capitol has not been breached for over 200 years since the War of 1812. That is, until last week, when it wasn't another country that attacked us, but our own president. President Donald Trump asked his supporters to march on the Capitol, inciting domestic terrorism that cost 5 lives, including a Capitol police officer. And we all know, whether you say it aloud or not, Donald Trump is responsible for inciting the attacks in our democracy that he should have been the one person protecting it the most. And for that, he is unfit to be president, and we must impeach him.
The gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 90 seconds to the gentleman from Texas. Mr.
90
Roy.
seconds? Ooh.
The gentleman from Texas is yielded 90 seconds.
I thank the gentleman from Ohio. The President of the United States deserves universal condemnation for what was clearly, in my opinion, impeachable conduct, pressuring the Vice President to violate his oath of the Constitution to count the electors. His open and public pressure, courageously rejected by the Vice President, purposely seeded the false belief among the President's supporters, including those assembled on January 6th, that there was a legal path for the President. It was foreseeable and reckless to sow such a false belief that could lead to violence and rioting by loyal supporters whipped into a frenzy. Unfortunately, my Democratic colleagues drafted articles that I believe are flawed and unsupportable, focusing on the legal terms of incitement and insurrection. Even noting impeachment does not require meeting a certain legal standard, that danger for open speech and debate in this body and for the Republic is high if the House approves the articles as written. The language will be used to target members of this body under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. It will be used to suggest that any statements we make are subject to review by our colleagues and send us down the perilous path of cleansing political speech in the public square. We must end this. Let us condemn that which must be condemned and do so loudly. But let us do it the right way, with deliberation and without disastrous side effects. We must end tearing apart our nation by social media and sound bites. Let us stop. Let us debate. Let us sit down and lead this nation together. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from New York, Ms. Maloney.
The gentlewoman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, this vote is not about one man, one party, or even one day. It's about protecting our nation, preserving democracy, and the rule of law. The facts are clear and undisputed. President Trump used a litany of lies about a stolen election and willfully incited an armed insurrection with the intent of stopping the peaceful transfer of power. He attacked not just the Capitol, not just Congress, he even attacked democracy itself. That's why he must be impeached.
The gentlewoman's time is
and
expired.
I yield back.
The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Price.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Chairman, the President has engaged in conduct that is criminal, impeachable, and profoundly threatening to our democracy. He pressed state officials and members of this body to overturn an illegitimate election and to keep him in power. And he then invited and activated a violent mob to invade the Capitol and achieve his desired result by insurrection. If that is not impeachable conduct, I don't know what is. The President must be removed from office immediately and never allowed to hold office again.
That's the precedent we're trying to set. That is the precedent. It's not.
From New York
The precedent
reserves.
is
The
not
gentleman
impeaching the
from
president. The
Ohio.
precedent is not
Thank you, Madam
allowing
Speaker. I
a
would,
violent
yield
insurrectionist
1
to hold
minute
office.
To the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Fallon.
If the people
Chair.
in
The
this
gentleman's
group
recognized
who
for 1 minute.
resigned
Thank you,
Madam
over this
Speaker.
stuff,
Last
or at
summer,
least
the
over
Antifa
fear
and
of
BLM
prosecution
riots
over
swept
this stuff,
all over our country. Cities
Fuck
were burned,
you!
businesses destroyed, and lives violently stolen.
$3.8
And it
billion
wasn't just for an afternoon like those horrible hours we had on
allegedly
January 6th,
in
but
Portland,
rather they went on
and
for weeks and in some
all of
cases
that
even months. So if there's any
was
silver
like
lining
trash
in this
piles
dark
and shit.
cloud, it's that our friends from across the aisle have come to realize that riots are bad. We
God.
conservatives have known this all along. This snap impeachment is a sham, and it didn't go through the Judiciary Committee, and it's not even about the president's actual words, but it's about how our Democratic colleagues want to interpret his words and fashion a
No.
particular meaning to them.
Fight like hell.
this is
Trial
just
by
political
combat. Take this
grandstanding
country
at its
by
worst.
force. You must
The
use
American people
strength, not
desperately want us
weakness.
to move on
The
and
election
tackle
was
the issues
stolen.
and find
How is
solutions
any of that not
to
supposed to
them
inflame a
forthwith.
base?
Madam Speaker, let's end this obsession
Just
with
saying.
charade, and let's get to work. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio
Get to work
wishes
blocking
to
$2,000
reserve.
checks for your constituents.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve.
We want to
we
get
reserve.
back to the work
The
of taking
gentleman
money
from
away from the American people.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Quigley.
The gentleman from Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, now we hear talk of the president's notion of a peaceful transfer of power, which apparently means what? Minimal casualties? Now we
For
hear
real,
talk
though,
of
minimal
healing after
casualties.
the criminal acts are completed. Never as a criminal defense attorney did I say, Judge, yeah, my guy completed the armed robbery, but let's heal now. No.
For
there was
real, for real.
accountability. There was accountability then.
No
There
shit.
should be accountability now, and there should be impeachment now.
I want this
Thank you.
guy representing
The
me.
gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
Dude made me
recognized.
so hard just now.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York
Sorry,
is
I'm
recognized.
obviously
Speaker,
peeking
now
on here.
yield,
I can see
30
that.
seconds to the distinguished gentlelady
But I feel
from
like
North Carolina,
these
and
words
member
need
of the
emphasis.
committee, Ms. Ross.
Let me
The
just turn that
gentleman
down a
from
little
North
bit.
Carolina
There
is
we go.
recognized for 30 seconds.
Just gonna turn that
Madam
down.
Speaker, I rise today in support of the article of impeachment. The president's responsibility for the violence and insurrection. that
Strange how
occurred
many
last
white people are
Wednesday
opposed to
cannot
the
go unanswered.
impeachment.
The president has had multiple opportunities to modify his behavior to bring this country together. Instead, he uses his power to further divide us. He is unrepentant. Congress must act. for
In the
good of
literal
this
sense of the
country.
word, true.
Madam
He's never
Speaker, I yield back
apologized
my
for
time.
anything
The
that he's done.
gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman
He
from
said
Ohio
one
is
time
recognized.
that
Thank you, Madam
he
Speaker. I would yield 1
incorrectly
minute to
said
the
that
gentleman
Russia
from
was
Virginia, Mr.
responsible
Good.
for
The
meddling in the
gentleman from
election.
Virginia is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. I stand
once
today
said
in
that.
support of President Trump and against this sham impeachment proceeding with literally 1 week, 7 days remaining in his term. This is merely the culmination of a 4-year
I'm
effort
confused as to
overturn the
how
will of the
this
people
how it's a
and the
sham.
results for the 2016
People broke
election.
into the Capitol building.
This is simply a
5
political
people
action
died.
intended to tarnish the legacy of a highly successful president who led us to an incredible economy, energy independence, reduction of taxes for millions, regulatory relief for businesses,
Millions
renewed
of
peace in the
rich
Middle
people
East, and
everywhere.
stronger border security. This action will only serve to further
Stronger
offend
border
the
security,
75
which
million
means
people who
retrofitting
voted for
314
President Trump
miles
and further deepen
of
the
already
division within our
established
nation
wall,
as we try to move
3.5
forward
miles of
with a
which blew
peaceful
over in the last
transition of
tropical
power.
storm.
However, the Democrat majority has
All for
determined he's already
$3.8 billion.
guilty, and there's
No, I think I
need of
got
a trial,
3.8
and they
mixed up.
therefore move forward
All for
quickly with this
$1.5
phony
billion
impeachment charge.
per section?
Today, I join my Republican colleagues in standing against this further effort to divide our nation. Thank you. Now yield
Is
back.
it a sham
Yields back. The gentleman
if
from
your
Ohio wishes to
followers
reserve. The
tried to
gentleman
storm
from
the
New York is
Capitol building
recognized.
to
Madam
occupy
Speaker, I
it?
now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Texas, Mr.
Is that a
Cuellar.
sham?
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of the impeachment. It's very simple. What we saw on January 6th was a person, the President of the United States, incite a crowd to come and attack
I
the
must
crowd,
have a cold or
the,
something because
Capitol.
I feel
We have to
simultaneously
make
hot
sure that we
and
stand
freezing
up
at
for
the same time.
democracy. If we don't do this, then what are we going to stand for?
My
We
chair's
stand
coming
for democracy.
today.
We stand for American values, and I stand for the impeachment of Donald Trump.
Nobody else is excited, but I am.
The gentleman yields
Big
back
time.
the balance of his time. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Scanlon.
The gentlewoman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
We've got to
for
be
30
getting close
seconds.
towards the
On January 6th,
close to the vote.
President Trump launched an attack against the United States Capitol. I too urge my colleagues to unite, but to unite in love of country and to hold this president accountable. What unites our
people talking
country
in the background?
is
Come on.
respect
Be
for
respectful.
the rule of law. Without accountability for those who would shatter the rule of law by overturning a presidential election, we cannot take seriously the cries of being a united people. This president remains a serious threat to our country and must be held accountable.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
reserve.
recognized, and he
Madam Speaker, we
chooses to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me make everybody aware that on those just sun-bleached bones of history of many great nations are written those pathetic words, too late. They moved too late to save their great nations. Let us not this day move too late to save our great nation.
Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Can you hear how
Thank you,
defeated
Madam
she
Speaker. I
sounded
would yield
in
1
her
minute to the
voice?
gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Norman.
The gentleman
Such
from
a
South
shame.
Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Ooh.
Speaker, I rise today
Added a
for
little
two
bass to the
reasons. One,
stream.
to voice my strong opposition for the impeachment of this president with 7 days left. I also want to voice
The
my
time
support
left
for the strong
doesn't
police department.
matter.
Many of you want to defund. Where was your cries to defund when you were leaving this office, this very room, last on the 6th? Height of hypocrisy.
What?
I yield back.
What?
Members are
What is-
kindly reminded to remind yourself to address your remarks to the chair.
Fucked up.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve.
We do, Madam Speaker.
The
Y'all
gentleman from New
motherfuckers
York
were
is
calling it
recognized.
defund. Well, you
Madam
weren't calling
Speaker,
it
I yield
defund
30
in
seconds to the
the
distinguished
time that we
gentleman
left.
from California, Mr. Chairman.
And it's the biggest
gentleman from California is
hypocrisy,
recognized
the
for
biggest
30
hypocrisy
seconds.
ever. Fuck you.
Ironic. An administration
You sound like you're
begins
flailing.
by building an unnecessary wall on our southern border. It ends by making necessary a new wall around this capital. I introduced articles of impeachment in July of 2017 with one
The guys
co-sponsor,
outside the Capitol
Al Green,
proved that laws don't
and
work, or
again
that
in
walls don't
January
work.
of 2019. And on Monday night, I joined with so many of us in introducing these articles. I've introduced articles of impeachment in the 115th, 116th, and 117th Congress because Donald Trump has continuously posed a danger to this
The
republic.
gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Mast.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise with a very simple question. On January 6th, thousands broke the law by taking siege of our Capitol here with us inside. Has any one of those individuals who brought violence on this Capitol been brought here to answer whether they did that because of our president?
What? What are you doing? What's happening? What? What's going on? Is he?
It appears I will receive no answer. I will yield my time back.
I didn't hear what he was asking.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve his time. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
I'm sure he made a profound statement just now.
I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Stanton.
The gentleman from Arizona is recognized for 30 seconds.
I'm
Donald
sure.
Trump is the
I'm
first president
sure.
in the history of this republic to incite a violent insurrection.
I'm sure he
against
meant to
our
say
own
something
government,
profound there.
against our own people. It is
But
a
I like to
shocking
think I'm pretty
betrayal of his
perceptive.
oath
If
of
I didn't
office and our
pick up on
American
it,
values. We don't know yet if the president
maybe it
will face
wasn't that
criminal
impactful.
charges, but we do know he
This
must
is
be held to
C-SPAN.
account. Each one of us in this House took an oath to protect and defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, even if that enemy is the president. We must move forward as a nation from these darkest days, but we can't move forward without accountability.
The gentleman's
We must
time
impeach
has
this
expired.
president. I yield back.
The gentleman from New York reserves, and the gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Chair, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Stevens.
The gentlewoman from Michigan is recognized for 30 seconds.
Insurrection, a violent mob. A week
Hey,
ago
Lucifer, how's it
today,
going?
5 people were killed, many injured, and everyone in this building forced to hide for their very life. The president was called for help, but he did
It's so
not
strange. The
answer
Republicans
our
all
call
seem
while
so
our government was being taken over.
monochromatic.
He failed to lead and therefore proved himself incapable of doing so. Some may say impeachment is political. Some may cry it is divisive. But, Madam Speaker, our obligation to our
We shouldn't really care if it's divisive right now. If you commit a crime, you should be held accountable.
From Ohio.
Yes or no? I mean, anyone commits a crime, they should be held accountable
The
for it.
gentleman from New York is recognized.
If you commit a
Madam
crime,
Speaker, I yield 30 seconds
you do the
to
time.
the gentleman from California, Mr. Takano.
That's what
The gentleman
Republicans
from
believe.
California is
The law,
recognized
law
for
and
30
order party.
seconds.
Madam
Party
Speaker,
of
I rise
personal
today in
accountability.
support of the impeachment of President Donald Trump. The gravity of the moment demands it, and the fate of our republic depends on it. He committed an impeachable offense by inciting a violent and
Damn, this
deadly
dude's
insurrection
enthusiastic as
at the U.S.
fuck.
Capitol. For this, Congress must hold him accountable to preserve our democracy, our Constitution, and the rule of law. He should serve not 1 minute more and be barred forever from public office. He is toxic to our republic and toxic to our democracy.
Where are you from, Lucifer?
The gentleman yields back. The
you
gentleman from New York wishes to
A
reserve.
member of this country
The
that,
gentleman
that
from
is
Ohio
in
is
such
recognized.
turmoil right now?
So, thank you, Madam Speaker. So Democrats can say, quote, I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, while there are uprisings happening around the country. But they impeached the President of the United States for saying peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard.
No, he didn't.
Democrats can say, quote, you know, there needs to be unrest in the streets, while there is unrest in the streets.
For
But they
racial
impeached
justice.
The president for saying peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard.
That's not what he said.
Let's be consistent, all of us. All of us need to be consistent and condemn the violence
Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
And with that, I
The,
yield 1 minute to
the
the gentlelady from New
demonstrations,
Mexico.
the demonstrations during the
Gentlewoman from
summer
New Mexico
are for
is
racial
recognized
justice,
for 1 minute.
are for racial equality,
Thank you, Madam
and
Speaker.
to try
I
and
rise
bring
in
the rest of
opposition to these
society up
articles of
to
impeachment.
the
Political
Civil Rights
violence has
Act,
no place in our
at least the spirit of what it's
constitutional
supposed to be
republic, and
about.
those who assaulted police
This
officers and
riot
forced their way into the Capitol are
was
responsible for their
one
criminal
event
actions.
that was the
Leaders
culmination
in
of
both
4 years of
parties have a
misinformation
responsibility to
that
condemn such
radicalized
violence,
domestic
whether in the
terrorists
halls of Congress
into
or in the
wanting to
streets of America.
overthrow the government
I don't believe, Madam Speaker,
when
that the
everybody
American
else was
people
saying that the
have an
election was
appetite
free and
for
fair.
this. They are expecting us to do the will.
How is that not inciting a riot?
Those who
How is that
sent
not
us from
inciting
each
an
state
insurrection?
around the nation. Right now, Madam Speaker, we've seen this body impeach once before, trying to do it a second time. Two wrongs do not make a right.
Wait, what?
We've got to stand for the American people because we will not get a second chance to get this right the first time. Madam
What,
Speaker,
hopefully,
I yield back.
hopefully she's saying
Gentleman yields
that
back. The gentleman from Ohio wishes to
she's in
reserve.
favor
We do.
of
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman
impeachment?
from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker,
Where
I
does
now
two
yield
wrongs
30
don't make a right
seconds
fit into that?
To a new member, the distinguished gentleman from New York, Mr. Torres.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, the dangerous mob that Donald Trump unleashed on the United States Capitol represents a violent
Drink
assault
plenty of
on
water.
the separation of powers and on the peaceful transfer of power that we have long taken for granted. The impeachment of Donald Trump is not politics but law, not passion but reason, not vengeance but justice. And we as the people's representatives must rise to the challenge of defending democracy in the face of its gravest threat, and we will.
I think there are very few good presidents in the history of the entire presidency, but Obama was okay. I mean, he killed a lot of people in foreign countries, so that's not very good. But
The gentlewoman
his
from
domestic policies were
Massachusetts
good.
is recognized for 30 seconds.
We saw
Madam
a
Speaker,
height
I stand
of
before you
economic
today in
prosperity
disbelief.
under his
Disbelief that after the president
presidential
incited
leadership.
a violent mob to commit an act of insurrection and remained silent as police officers were assaulted,
housing housing values went up
and members of this
while he was in
body fled for
office.
their lives.
Stock market
But
went
there are
up.
still members of his party who
I
refuse
mean,
to
one of the
hold
top
him accountable.
Fortune 500s
It's
that I
because
worked
of that
for
inaction that
split
there
their
is only
stock
one
twice
path forward to put an end to
while we
this
were in the
presidency.
Obama
Donald
administration.
Trump must be impeached, removed
There is a
from
chance
office,
that Biden will
and
be
barred
good,
from ever holding
but
the
he's
office
like
of the
what we would
presidency
call a
again.
radical
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
centrist.
I yield back.
The
So I
gentlewoman
don't know
yields
that he would
back. The
necessarily
gentleman
be
from New York reserves
progressive
time.
enough to want to
The
carry a lot
gentleman
of
from
these
Ohio is recognized.
policies
Thank you,
through.
Madam Speaker. We reserve.
There's always a
The
chance, though.
gentleman
I don't
from
know.
Ohio
'Cause
reserves
after
his time.
Trump,
The gentleman
anyone's
from
going to
New
be
York
good.
is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from New York.
It could even be like a less
The
extreme
gentlewoman from
Republican,
New York
and it would be
is
fine.
recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of this resolution because in America,
Compared to
we
Trump, I
hold
mean.
power to account. In America, we do not succumb to violent insurrections incited by a head of state. In America, we do not turn a blunt
This is
eye
like what
to high crimes
if
and misdemeanors.
if
No,
someone stood
that is
outside your
not
house,
who we are. So
claimed to
today,
own your
as a
house,
sworn defender
claimed
of
that
this
you are
nation's
only living in that
Constitution,
house because
I
you
will
did
vote
something
in
illegal
favor
to get
of
possession of that
impeaching
house,
Donald J. Trump.
and then
I
encourages a
yield
group
back.
outside of
The
that
gentleman
house
from New York reserves. The
to
gentleman from
storm into
Ohio
that
is
house
recognized.
Thank you,
and
Madam
take
Speaker.
that
Could I again
house
inquire the time
from
remaining
you.
for each side?
The gentleman has 10
And the
minutes
police
remaining.
came and they killed one of the
The
cops,
gentleman for
and then
New
4
York
of them
has 9
died.
3/4 minutes remaining.
The person who
The gentleman
incited
from
that
Ohio is recognized.
would get into
Thank
trouble.
you,
They would
Madam
probably be
Speaker. I
tried
would
for
yield one
murder.
minute to the gentleman from California, Mr.
The
Malone.
At least in the
gentleman
second
from
degree.
California is recognized for 1 minute.
So the fact that the president can't be held accountable for inciting a dangerous riot against the House of our country is ridiculous.
Democrat Party. Today, the second annual impeachment of President Trump isn't really about actual words.
Second annual impeachment.
No. This is all about,
I would
Madam
love that.
Speaker, the unbridled hatred of this president. You use any extreme language and any process to oppose the core of what he has really fought for. You hate him because he is pro-life, strongest ever. You hate him for fighting for the freedom of our religions to not be persecuted by unfair mandates and limitations on speech. You hate him for not
What
subscribing
mandates
to
and
shackling
limitations
us
on
with the
speech?
religion of climate
Tell me
change,
where the government
one-sided
has
Paris
issued that you
Accords.
cannot say what you want.
hate him for Israel. You hate him for defending our borders. You hate him for letting families and small businesses keep what they earn, for trying to keep the agents of government off their back. You hate him for putting America first, which is what I thought we do when we swear the oath. No, this shabby show isn't about a threat to our republic.
Fuck this
This is
dude.
the impeachment and muting of at least half of the American people. This is shameful and abuse of a process.
Gentleman's time has
Strange.
expired. The
I didn't know
gentleman
that
from New York-
71 million people
The gentleman
is
from
half of our
Ohio
country.
yields you
Madam
another
Speaker,
20 seconds. 30.
I pray people of all stripes wake up to this spectacle and exercise their rights to put a stop
Reading,
to it.
Chico, and Susanville. Is there any
fair
surprise?
elections. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back his time.
Reading,
The
unsurprisingly,
gentleman
is
from
red. Chico,
Ohio
why Chico though?
wishes to
Chico State has the
gentleman from New York
Chico
is
State has the
recognized.
largest progressive program
Madam Speaker, I now
in
yield,
California,
30 seconds
other
to the
than UC
gentlelady from
Mendocino.
Florida, Ms. Wasserman.
No, that is
The
Mendocino
gentleman
County,
from
isn't it?
Florida is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the
And then they
impeachment
have one of the
President
largest
Donald J.
private
Trump for seditious
businesses.
acts against
Oh, I guess that
America.
makes sense.
To
Private
overturn the
family-owned business
2020
Sierra Nevada
presidential
Brewing.
election, Trump incited a violent assault on Congress, a treasonous betrayal of our nation. This criminal incitement left us with 5 dead, including a police officer, a desecrated Capitol, and a second constitutional crisis.
I'm
His acts so
surprised
show
no one
contempt
stole
for the
that
rule of law,
mace
the Constitution,
with
and
the
the
fucking
foundation
eagle
of
on
any
top.
democracy, a peaceful transition of power. President Trump is a clear and present danger to American lives and democracy, and he leaves us no choice but to immediately remove him from office. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio
Oh,
Thank you, Madam
is
Speaker.
recognized.
I'm getting
Yeah, thank you,
sweaty
Madam
just,
Speaker. I
just
would
waiting
yield,
for this vote.
90 seconds to the gentlelady from Tennessee, Ms. Hirschberger.
The gentlewoman from Tennessee is is yielded 90 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge my colleagues to vote against impeachment of our sitting President, Donald J. Trump. You can
Why?
tell the American people that this is a vote to impeach upon the grounds of inciting violence and insurrection, but the American people see a double standard. They see a standard implied to
Because
those on
you
the left
lied
who commit
to
violence,
them.
and they see a standard to those applied to the right who commit violence. The American people see this and they understand it.
I urge
I've been here all of 1
anyone
week.
to challenge me
And what I
on
see
this.
instead of lawmakers who are
Where was the
truth
violence
seekers,
this
I see
summer?
lawmakers
How
who
many
are
police died?
power seekers.
How many
And that's
police
never good. Never
died?
good. What a shame. What a shame.
And of
The
those
American people
police
are
that
watching
died,
to see
how
how their
many
elected
died
officials
from
respond at this
BLM
moment
or
in
Antifa
history. Will
activists?
you vote to mend or will you vote to further divide this country? I'm urging you to use this opportunity
You're
to
right,
be
there
the
is a double
leaders the
standard.
American
Double standard
people
in
are
how
seeking
those
for
protesters
such a
were
time as
treated.
this.
They
God
let
help us as a
them
nation,
in
and I
to
pray
the
that God
Capitol
will keep
building.
his hand
The
upon the
police,
greatest nation
the Capitol
the world
Police
has
that
ever
support
seen.
President Trump
I yield
let
back.
them in to the building.
Gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio.
They
wishes to reserve
killed
his time.
a police
The gentleman
officer.
from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, how much time do we have, please?
Gentleman from New York has 9 1/4 minutes. And Ohio has 8 minutes. The gentleman from Ohio, 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Gentleman from New York.
Thank you.
God, that means
Madam
it's gonna take like
Speaker,
another
I now yield
hour.
30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Butterfield.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized
Butterfield?
for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, President Trump's incitement to violently overturn the results of a free and fair election is an attack on our rule of law. Any president, any member of Congress who obstructs the Electoral College or attacks judges and the court system where there's no evidence to support their contentions
After
undermines the public's trust
70
and
something
confidence in the judicial
failed
process.
lawsuits?
How do my Republican colleagues expect ordinary citizens to respect and trust the courts in civil and criminal matters all across
They
this
can't.
country?
This justice system
Think
is
about
incredibly
that as
fucked
you
up.
make this decision. Vote
The
yes
gentleman's
on
time
the
has
article of
expired. The
impeachment.
gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York
Madam
is
Speaker, I yield
recognized.
30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Ms. Roybal Allard.
The gentlewoman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, I take no joy in voting to impeach President Trump, but this president has blood on his hands in the wake of this attempted coup.
We need to see
The
some
fact
Republicans in
remains
support.
No president of the United States is above the law, and this president has sadly violated his oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. As members of Congress who have taken that
I feel like the
same
fact that they
pledge,
keep repeating the
it
same
is our
thing over and
duty to
over
take
again.
this action
It's making
and
it sound like
impeach
white
this
noise.
unfit and dangerous president. I yield back.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from California, Mr. Canna.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 30 seconds.
I'm voting to impeach because, as Lincoln said, no grievance is a fit object of redress by mob law. But we must recognize that our hard work begins to address the real grievances and despair in left-behind communities. To be worthy of this capital that we hold sacred, to fix our broken windows and broken communities, let's finally commit to investing trillions in creating good jobs in healthcare, in education and infrastructure for communities and places that are hurting.
Agreed.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves.
Infrastructure
The
is the
gentleman
best
from Ohio
investment
is
you can make into a
recognized.
Thank you, Madam
society.
Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Alabama, Ms. Sewell.
The gentlewoman.
It's so weird that they say
Ms. Sewell is
gentlewoman
recognized for
and
30
gentlelady.
Madam Speaker,
Gentlewoman.
I rise today to support impeachment.
Isn't
I
a-
do so with
a
a heavy
female
heart
version
and
of a gentleman a
lasting
lady?
and searing memory of being in this gallery, the People's House, right up there, fearing for my life. And why? Because the President of the United States incited
Because
others
dangerous
a mob of
insurrectionists
insurgencies in
broke
this House.
into the Capitol
It's
building
unacceptable.
shouting
It
the
led to the killing
N-word,
of 5
asking where
Americans.
Pelosi
Blood
was,
is on
and
this
shouting to
House.
hang Pence.
We must do something about it. I ask that we
It's a
move
wonder
from
why she would have been
stopping the
scared.
steal
I
to
can't imagine.
Healing, but healing requires accountability. And everyone must be accountable.
True
who is-
healing
I will-
requires you to be able to look at the person who committed the crime and say you finally got some justice.
From New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I would yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Moore.
The gentleman from Alabama is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I'm fairly new here. Actually, this is my first floor speech. But I rise to oppose this impeachment. You know, I asked my staff this morning, I said, how many times in our nation's history have we impeached a president? Well, they said up
3.
until this president, only 2 times in our nation's
Well,
history.
3,
So here
including
we are,
this president, the first time.
7 days left in his first term, and we're going to impeach a president for what reason?
He doesn't understand
For what
how
reason?
politics works. He
There have
doesn't
been no
understand how
hearings.
precedent works. He doesn't
There have been
understand
no
law.
committees. We must defend the right and protect the process of impeachment. If we pursue this, from now on, from this day forward, impeachment will always be a political process. I ask my friends across the aisle, they always talk about healing.
Don't we?
Healing. How do we come together as a
aren't they
nation?
in politics?
Since
Isn't the
2016,
president part of a
there has been
political process?
hashtags going around in our nation that said, not our president. Resist, resist.
Oh no!
Across the
Oh,
aisle,
hashtags!
the
Oh,
public to have
please!
support
Won't
of this
anybody
president's
think
attack
of the online presence of
me.
our president?
Thank you,
Oh,
Madam Speaker.
please! Not the
Ohio wishes
hashtags!
to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield
Fuck
30
your
seconds
sensibilities.
to the distinguished gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Schakowsky.
The gentlewoman from Illinois is recognized for 30 seconds.
Last Friday, I sent a letter to my constituents telling the story about the violent attack on our Capitol building, which is really like the temple of our democracy. I have now taken the oath of office, the same oath of office that the President of the United States has taken, that all of us here have taken, and he has been the orchestrator of this attack. It is time to hold this president accountable. It is time, and history demands that we impeach
The gentlewoman's
Donald
time has
Trump for
expired.
second
The
time.
gentleman from New York wishes to
If
reserve.
the people
The
who
gentleman
were
from
members
Ohio is
of this
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
insurrection are being arrested and tried,
The gentleman from
sentences
Ohio reserves. The gentleman from
including
New York is
up and up or
Madam
up to
Speaker,
and
I yield 30
including
seconds to the
20
gentleman
years
from Connecticut, Mr. Himes.
for sedition.
The
If they're
gentleman
being
from
tried and
Connecticut
held
is
accountable,
recognized for 30
then
seconds.
should not also
Search your soul,
the
consider your
people
oath, and I add 4
who
more
incited that
words.
riot?
Reflect on your legacy. My friends, which way is history flowing right now?
I gotta listen to this
Will
guy. Hang
Donald
on.
Trump join the pantheon of Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Reagan? Or will his 33% approval ratings and the condemnation of principled Republicans consign him to the heap of reviled
It should,
demagogues with
yes.
Joseph McCarthy and
Yeah.
Andrew Johnson?
Yes.
Where he goes in history, you go in history.
Yes.
Unless
True.
today you make a stand. I yield back.
Yields back.
Nice. I agree.
I would like to remind members to please direct their remarks to the chair. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
Fuck
recognized.
decorum.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I
At
now
this
yield
point,
30
anyway.
seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Hawaii, Mr. Carolan.
The gentleman from Hawaii is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, as a member of our armed forces, now a member
gonna go
of
pee, BRB.
Congress, I have taken and given the oath of office many times. I will support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On January 6th, the President violated this oath, inciting violent and deadly insurrection. Our sacred oaths are hollow without accountability. We must hold this President accountable, remove him from office, ensure he can never hold public office again. I urge my colleagues to do the same. This oath has to matter. Mahalo, and I yield back.
New York recognized. The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Sarbanes.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, this beautiful Capitol dome is a symbol of freedom and democracy, not just for Americans, but for the people the world over. The action we take today, this impeachment, is a declaration to the world that when there is an attack on our democracy, whether it comes from without or whether tragically in this instance it comes from within, we will respond to that threat and attack, and we will do what's necessary to strengthen our democracy. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The
All
gentleman
right.
from Ohio
So
is
it's 12:18, which
Thank you,
means
Madam
I have
Speaker.
not
I
yet
yield 2.5 minutes to the distinguished
smoked
gentleman
any
from
of
New York,
my
Mr.
weed
Zeldin.
today.
The gentleman from New York is
So
recognized
I'm going
for
to keep the face cam off for
2.5
now
minutes.
while I do
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
the immoral thing.
I'm sickened and angered
But I'm back.
by
I
what we
can hear,
all had
I can
to
talk.
witness last Wednesday,
So if you want to talk, talk.
and call for the investigation and prosecution to the fullest extent of the law, every single person who participated in the violence and loss of life in this Capitol building last Wednesday. I, as a member, sit here listening to the entire debate, desperately need to better understand the two standards that are at play in this House.
Two standards. They're always going for
Why
this double
is it
standard
okay
bullshit.
If a House Democrat calls for violence in the streets,
Nobody's calling for violence in
but
the
not
streets.
if you're a Republican?
Nobody called for
Why
violence
can
in the
a House
streets.
Democrat be rewarded with a gavel and a chairmanship if they're calling for physical confrontation of a Trump administration official, but they will be punished if they're a Republican?
Wait, in
The double
what is he
standards
talking about?
that we have seen time
Who's
and
calling
time
for
again,
physical
we
violence?
I need to better understand what the rules are of this House. Why is it that a committee chairman can lie to the American public about having more than circumstantial evidence that the president colluded with the Russians in order to win the 2016 election, but of course the Republicans
They found the
can't and
proof. They just
wouldn't
can't
lie to the
prosecute
American
a
public
sitting president.
about something like that? We need to better understand
NordVPN,
what these
leave
two
me alone.
standards are that are at play, and to complete the record.
I have
Because
all these
the House
applications
Democrats
open.
are
What
here
the
to
hell
make
is wrong with me?
President Trump the first president to
Why do I
be
have- oh my
impeached
God.
twice. So I'll complete the record. First off, in the articles of impeachment, it's written that the president gave a speech and he told his supporters to come here and that he incited this riot. And one speaker after another
That's
here on
true.
the other side of the aisle have repeated that in the article of impeachment. But we all know that this was a pre-planned attack. We all
What?
know that there was pipe bombs being discovered while the president was speaking. We all know that the Capitol perimeter was being breached during the president's speech.
What?
We know that this was pre-planned.
Where
and
is
it
this
started
take
while the
coming
president was
from?
speaking. Why is that not in the articles of impeachment?
Because
Why
that's
is it
not how
being
things happened.
incorporated into my colleague's remarks?
Because that's
To
not what
complete the record, if you want to make the president the first president to be impeached twice, well, we'll add something else to that. Thank you to the president.
Yeah, he's
for
literally
his efforts to
telegraphing
defeat
what he's trying to do.
MS-13
Is
in
he's
my
trying to
district,
add all this
or
information to the
withdraw from
record,
request 30 more
so there could be.
Fired. The gentleman yields an additional 30 seconds. Did I hear correct?
Yes.
The gentleman has another 30
This
seconds.
is absolutely ridiculous. He's trying to
president for
add
his
more
effort to move
words.
The embassy in Israel to Jerusalem and recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and to take out Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and Qasem Soleimani, to eliminate the ISIS caliphate, to enter into the historic Abraham Accords, to have an economy this time last year that was stronger than I ever remember in my entire lifetime. Yeah, we'll complete the record.
That he inherited
In all
from
fairness, if
Obama.
The president leaves 1 week from today. Let's be honest about the double standards that exist inside of this chamber.
No
And
double standard.
Let's also be honest that this president did a lot to make
The
America
gentleman's
greater
time
than
has
ever.
expired.
I
The
yield back.
gentleman from
And greater than
Ohio
ever?
wishes to reserve.
Really? Our allies hate
The
us.
gentleman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now yield 1 minute to the distinguished I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Caston.
What happens
The
if
gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
What happens if we get this wrong is written in Lincoln's second inaugural, when one party would make war rather than let the nation survive. On December 7th, on September 11th, we came together against an enemy from without, but on January 6th, we were attacked by an enemy from within, the president who would make war with malice for all and charity for none. We must come together in unity today against that domestic threat to our Constitution. The alternative is too unbearable to contemplate. We must
For real, the
impeach
first
bipartisanly,
successful
unanimously, if we
violent
have the
insurrection.
The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the distinguished gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Fletcher.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in support of the article of impeachment and in opposition to
Which
the
is, it's surprising to me
is
that more people
masquerading
aren't.
as
Even
debate in this chamber
even the
today.
people that, or
I
even the
was in
Republicans that
this
are staunchly
chamber
against
when
it
the president
before the
assembled and unleashed a mob
the
to attack the United States
attack on the Capitol.
and the United States Congress, the elected
I would
representatives
imagine
of the people.
that you'd want to distance yourself from
By
that.
doing so, he
Unless you think that
incited
there's
an
some
insurrection
way
against our representative democracy itself.
that you're not going to get in
If
trouble.
that is not an impeachable offense, then what is? Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from New York reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is
And
recognized.
who would you impeach?
Gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from
Or rather,
New York
who
is
would you
I now yield 30 seconds to
who would you
distinguished
hold
gentlelady
accountable
from, Michigan,
of
Ms.
Antifa?
Clay.
Which
The gentlewoman
Antifa
from Michigan is
leadership
recognized for 30 seconds.
are we going to hunt down?
In Michigan's 13th, we proudly speak truth to power, even in the face of a racist in chief. Those who incited an attack on the People's House do not get to talk about healing and unity. They have torn this country
Yeah,
apart.
for real.
They have stoked the fire and then handed the gasoline to Donald Trump. Dr. King once said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is in the presence of justice." Today, we must embody those words. And we must understand that peace must be centered in truth and action. We cannot sit, Madam Chair, sit idly by after
Rashida's
a
my
violent
girl.
attempted coup and allow lies
Rashida!
to continue. Today, we stand up for our constituents who continue to be harmed by this
York wishes to reserve. The
vicious
gentlewoman
ideology. Today, we
time has
impeach
expired.
Donald Trump.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. And the gentleman from New York has 3 3/4 minutes remaining. From Ohio has 4. And the gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from North Dakota, Mr. Armstrong.
The gentleman from North Dakota is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What happened last Wednesday is an absolute tragedy. And not only are we part of dealing with it now, we were part of it
So this
then.
can't fix much
But when emotions are frayed and
in the short
tensions
term,
are
but
this high,
once
process matters more. It matters more now than it did before.
once the Senate comes back
And
into
the
session,
reality is this. There are
they can
serious
push it to a vote.
constitutional questions about these articles. And Donald Trump is going to be president until January 20th. And on January 20th, Joe Biden's going to become president. But I'll end with this. I'm going to vote against impeachment, and that's going to give me credibility at home with my base. You're going to vote for impeachment, and that's going to give you credibility at home with your base. It's easy to point at me and blame me. It's easy for me to point at you and blame you. But on January 21st, we're all going to be back here. So use that credibility. Go back and talk some hard truths to your people. I'm going to do it, and we need to do a better job. And with that, I yield back.
which means you need to hold people accountable
Gentleman
when it's
yields
appropriate.
back. The gentleman from New York reserves. Excuse me, the gentleman from Ohio reserves. The gentleman from New York.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from North Carolina, Ms. Manning.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, this president has repeatedly lied to the American people about his election loss. He incited his followers to attack our democracy, resulting in 5 deaths. His dangerous efforts
I
to
love
derail the
how the
peaceful
Republicans
transition
are
of
like,
power were a violation
Stop
of
the
his oath
steal,
of
stop the
office.
steal. And
This
then when it's
president
proven
is
that
unfit
there
to
was
lead
no
our
steal,
nation
they're like,
and unable to discharge his duties of office.
I mean,
I call upon my Republican colleagues
lawsuits
to
and
speak the
lawsuits
truth
and
to their
lawsuits. And when
supporters
lawsuits don't work,
and join me
they're like,
in holding President Trump accountable
but riots,
by voting
riots.
to impeach.
And then when
I
riots
yield.
don't work, they're like,
Reserves. The
I never
gentleman
wanted
from
any of that
Ohio
this
is
whole
recognized.
time. I
Madam
just
Speaker, we reserve.
wanted
The
people
gentleman
to
from
get together
Ohio
and
reserves.
heal.
The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Mervan.
What a bunch of cowards.
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, since the events on January 6th, I spoke with a group of ministers from Gary, Indiana, and they told me how they are praying for unity and justice in our nation. It reminded me of the moment when those of us who were on the House floor on January 6th were huddled together in a secure room after the attack. The House chaplain, Kiblin, led us all in prayer. Let us remember that moment. Let us rekindle that prayer for those 3 minutes when we were all united to preserve our democracy and justice. I support the article of impeachment so that we can move forward to do the work that our constituents sent us here to do. With that, I yield back.
Has expired.
Let's just remember that he's
gentleman
saying
from
this
New York
because
reserves.
violent insurrectionists stormed the
gentleman from New
Capitol
York
in
has
support of Trump's dispute
2 and 3/4
over a
minutes
free
remaining.
and
The
fair
gentleman from Ohio
election. I
has
just want to make sure that that's established.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio reserved. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Moulton.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, there are more troops right now in Washington, D.C. than in Afghanistan. And they are here to defend us against...
She must have Alzheimer's if she can only recognize him for 30 seconds.
the United States and his mob. I would ask my colleagues to look at the faces of those young Americans defending democracy, defending us, and find an ounce of their courage to do the right thing.
Just a
as
little bit.
several
Just one little ball.
Republicans have,
Just grow
and
one
take
little
a
ball.
tough vote for the future of democracy, for the future of our
The
country.
gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York wishes to reserve. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio wishes to reserve. The gentleman from New York is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield 30 seconds to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Vesey.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
Madam Speaker, let's be clear about one thing. If we were on the eve of a Republican president being sworn in, and his Democratic predecessor had said the same thing that this president said,
Speaking
and
truth.
incited his followers, his mob, to descend up on the Capitol, we will be joining them, not making comparisons, because guess what? I don't care about no base. I care about this democracy and this country. And what happened the other day
Yeah,
should
for
never
real.
happen
Oh, it's a
again,
political
and
thing.
we
It's a
need to
political
stand up
thing. You
and
can
say
go home and you
do
can
the
tell
right
your
thing.
base that you did the
Time has
right thing.
expired. The gentleman
It's
from New
okay.
York
It's okay. I'm going to have to
reserves.
do
The
that too.
gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Madam
Fuck
Speaker, the
you.
Republican whip is prepared to close for us whenever that is appropriate, so we'll reserve until that's time.
The gentleman reserves.
Madam
The
Speaker,
gentleman from New York.
I now yield 30 seconds to the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee.
The gentlewoman from Texas is recognized for 30 seconds.
I was on that floor just 1 week ago, and so today the insurrectionist in chief will be impeached for insurrection. It is because he failed to defend this nation against all enemies, domestic and foreign, and he stood down near the White House and told a mob of domestic terrorists to go and show your strength. Be strong.
Yeah.
You can't gain anything because of weakness.
Yeah.
We must hold him accountable. We can heal
Yeah.
this nation, but he must be impeached today. We must impeach Donald J. Trump as an
Gentlewoman's time has
insurrectionist
expired. The
to do
gentleman
that
from New
now.
York reserves. The gentleman
That's how
from
you
Ohio
heal.
is recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. We reserve.
The gentleman from Ohio continues to reserve. The gentleman from New York.
Kill Antifa. Fuck socialism. Hang all socialists.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, you guys had a riot that killed a bunch of
Madam
people.
Speaker.
Yes.
I
No,
yield 3
no,
minutes.
no. Peaceful.
Thank you, Madam
We
Speaker. I
got to
yield 3
heal.
minutes to
Why can't
the,
we just heal?
Republican whip,
There's a
the
double
gentleman from
standard.
Louisiana, Mr. Scalise.
The gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank the gentleman from Ohio for yielding. Madam Speaker, our nation still mourns the unacceptable violence and anarchy that took place in this Capitol last week. As we speak, arrests are still being made, and the anarchists who
This stream wasn't
stormed
even
our
in the right
Capitol
goddamn
are being
section.
brought
Oh
to
my God.
justice, as should be the case. Emotions are
That's
still
fine.
high, but in this moment, we need to be focused on toning down the rhetoric and helping heal this nation as we move towards a
The
peaceful
second it's a
transition
problem
of
for
power to
them,
President-elect Joe Biden next
we
week.
got to heal. We got to heal.
My
Don't let's
prayers,
tone
Madam Speaker,
down
still
the
Capitol
hateful,
police officers
hateful
Sicknick
rhetoric.
and Liebengood, who we lost, as well as all of the
Tone down
Capitol
the
police
hateful
officers
rhetoric, guys.
who risked
Tone it
their lives
down,
to
you know?
keep us safe.
Just
They
got to
are true
tone it down. We
heroes,
got to heal.
and they deserve all
Gotta
of our
heal.
applause today.
Some cheap applause there. Good little boost for the bass. Come on. This din is fucking my audio feed.
Madam Speaker, I've seen the dark evil of political violence firsthand, and it needs to stop. But all of us need to be unequivocal in calling it out every single time we see it, not just when it comes from the other side of the aisle. I oppose this rushed impeachment brought forward without a single hearing. And by the way, the Senate will not even take this up until President Trump is out of office. So let's keep that in mind. It will
Doesn't
only
matter.
serve
That's not why they're doing
to
it.
further divide a nation
No, it
that is
won't.
calling out for healing. Madam Speaker, many speakers today have invoked one of our nation's greatest leaders, President Abraham Lincoln. Maybe we should follow some of Lincoln's wisdom that he's imparted upon us in moments like this. As Abraham Lincoln was giving his second inaugural address in March of 1865, Lincoln issued us a challenge. This is what he said: "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all our nations."
This is him defending
Madam Speaker,
his
in times
party
like these,
against
let us
prosecution
not reach out to our darkest demons, but instead, like Lincoln, seek
against an
the higher
insurrection.
ground. May God bless
And
this
he's
great United States
quoting a
of
president
America. I
who
yield
was
back.
making comments
gentleman
about
from New
healing the
York
nation
is recognized.
after a dangerous
Mr.
insurrection.
Speaker, we can have all this, but we have accountability too.
Is he?
And now
Does he
yield
know that he's doing that?
Our remaining time, 1 minute to the distinguished Majority Leader of the House, Mr. Hoyer.
The majority of the leaders recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the chairman for yielding. This is a troubled time, a sad time. It is a time where all of us have stood almost to a person and lamented the violence and the assault on this Capitol and the assault on democracy itself. It was right to do that. But this impeachment ought to be put in the perspective of what the Republican chair of the Republican conference said it was. She said the President of the United States summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of that attack. There has never been, she said, a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of this office, of his office, and his oath to the Constitution. That is why we are here today. That is why we are here today.
Just want to get a little music going.
Just a week before that president, at the request of the American people, will leave office. And the issue is, what do we do? The 433 of us, I believe, who are here, do on behalf of the American people to respond to what Representative Cheney described happened on the 6th of January. A mob assembled by, summoned by and then spoken to light the flame of the attack. To stop the steal.
Mm-hmm.
As we sat here, exercising our constitutional duty, and to his great credit, the Vice President of the United States following the Constitution of the United States of America. Notwithstanding the fact that he was opportuned by the President not to do so.
And these Republicans, they're not listening. They don't care. They already know what they're going to vote. They don't give a shit.
To stop the steal, did so for a few hours. Not the steal, but the constitutional duty that we had. And so we ask ourselves, what do we do? What is our responsibility? What should we say in light of only the Civil War as an analogy? That doesn't mean there haven't been demonstrations in Washington before and demonstrations throughout this country before. But it is the first and only physical presence other than the 9/11 attack on this nation, which came from abroad.
And the Republicans just don't want to be associated with it, so that's why they're trying to say, well, we just want healing. There's a double standard.
This attack was
no
not from
police
abroad.
died at the hands of Antifa or BLM.
It was, as Liz Cheney
I can just,
said,
that's the first thing off the top of my head that says,
summoned,
fuck you, Republicans.
assembled, and inflamed.
God, I might have to take a fucking ibuprofen. My neck is
of the
killing
United
me.
States of America, who in Liz Cheney said words that there has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution.
That's
I
pretty
pride
damning
myself
coming
as
from
a
your own
member of
party.
this Congress who for 40 years has worked in a bipartisan fashion with many of your leaders, and do to this day. But are we to remain silent in the face of Liz Cheney's saying this was the greatest betrayal of the duty of the President of the United States in history? Are we to stand silent? Will we stand silent? Will we not stand up and say, this is not acceptable? Madam Speaker, for 4 years, Donald Trump has made no effort to hide his ambitions or his lacking of Republican principles. Not our principles, but the principles that Abraham Lincoln was just quoted as having said. Your president, our president, has never displayed those in the 4 years he's been president of the United States. He has allowed little constraint on his worst inclinations. His desire for autocracy and his glorification of violence have not been tempered, but rationalized by those who sought to profit financially
For
and
real.
politically from their proximity to power.
Rationalized
On the
but
foundations of
enabled.
virtue, reason, and patient wisdom laid down by George Washington as our first president, Donald Trump has constructed a glass palace of lies, fear-mongering,
Donald Trump.
and sedition.
Mm-hmm.
Last Wednesday on January 6th, the nation and the world watched it
She knows what's
shatter
up.
to pieces.
So where's my?
There can be no
She knows what's up.
mistaking any longer the kind
She
of
just keeps
man
nodding when
sitting
I'm
in the
nodding.
Oval Office or his intentions and capabilities. The curtain has been pulled back. The office to which he was elected could not temper or reform him. Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The gentleman's correct. The House will be in order.
Washington's legacy was passed down to us not as written decrees, but understood norms.
Damn, dude.
How we ought to act.
Class.
How we ought to conduct ourselves. Term after term, each occupant has observed those norms out of a recognition that our Constitution's articles are not the only preservative of our democracy.
And we don't
For
like
more than 2
preservatives in this
centuries, Madam
society.
Speaker, whenever those norms were tested and strained, good and virtuous citizens on both sides of the aisle
Do I have a
found common
whistle in my
purpose
nose?
in reaffirming those norms. But memory fades, and from time to time it must be refreshed. Madam Speaker, as the framers emerged from the Constitution Convention, Benjamin
These pop
Franklin was
filters
asked whether they had made America
smell
a monarchy
chemically.
or a republic.
Smell like chemicals.
Probably all of us know this response. A republic, he answered, if you can keep it. That's the question today. If we can keep it. And the way we keep it is to say no to actions and words that do not promote the keeping of that republic.
Mm-hmm.
For millennia, people have understood that a republic is only as stable as, and lasting as the citizens and leaders who commit themselves to its upkeep.
For fucking real,
This
man.
president has shown us
Speak the truth,
he's not
Stenny.
committed to that project. His tweets every day have shown he is not committed to that project. Indeed, he openly disdains it and appears to prefer the alternative. But what of the rest of us? Those who have the honor and the great privilege and the weighty responsibility to represent the views of 750,000 of our fellow citizens. We in this Congress have an opportunity, no, a duty, to demonstrate our commitment, both as leaders and as citizens, to keeping America a republic. A republic that resolves its differences not through being ordered to come to the Capitol to prevent them from stealing the election.
For real, yeah.
Which was an absurd assertion from the very first day it was made. We cannot erase.
Bandied about
the last 4
continually
years,
by the
Madam
leader of the
Speaker.
free
We
world.
cannot turn back the clock, but we can look to the ideals and principles inherited from great presidents like Washington, like Jefferson, and yes, certainly like Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, and from outstanding Americans like Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Susan Anthony, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall, our beloved
To name a few.
John Lewis, and yes, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who taught us a lot about equality and inclusion. It's up to us to restore the vibrancy, Madam Speaker, of our democracy by reaffirming our commitment to the norms they passed on to us and entrusted to our care. But to make that possible, Madam Speaker, we must rise to this moment.
Make this
Not only
speech into a
affirm the
movie,
virtues we
and all those
cherish,
fucking rednecks in the South would be all
but
for it.
Reject.
Put some
the
explosions
vices
behind it, a
we
couple of eagle screeches.
That's what I'm asking my fellow representatives on both sides of the aisle to do today. We all stood and we
I can say that
abhorred
because I'm a
the
former
violence
redneck.
that occurred and the threat to the very democracy that we hold so dear and swore an oath to protect and uphold. Reject deceit. Reject fear-mongering.
Fuck is this song?
Reject sedition, tyranny, and insurrection. Reject the demand for fealty to one man over fidelity to one's country. When I addressed the House during the debate over the articles of impeachment in December 2019, I said the following: we need not ask who will be the first to show our courage by standing up to President Trump. The question we must ask: who will be the last to find it? Senator McConnell, Representative Cheney, a number of other representatives who have spoken on this floor with great courage, Madam Speaker. Because there is much fear of Donald Trump. There's much fear of Donald Trump's tweets.
I'd punch him in the face if I saw him in the street. I don't care if Secret Service guns me down right then and there. I will have fulfilled my life's purpose,
In my view,
is to punch Donald Trump in the face.
demands absolute loyalty and gives none
That is not a threat.
in return.
I am not serious.
I hope others will join Liz Cheney.
Don't put me on a list, FBI agent.
I hope others will be honest with themselves and with their constituents. As Liz Cheney was saying, there has never been a greater portrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. Don't dismiss that. She's the daughter of a Vice President of the United States who was the whip when I came to Congress. As she has taken a stand, I hope others will as well, Madam Speaker. Soon, the clerk will call
Can't
the
I just
roll
get some ambient shit?
and ask for our votes. Make no mistake, this will be no ordinary roll call. This is about our country, our Constitution, and our democracy. These votes will be inscribed on the roll of history.
Well, hopefully if there's anyone listening out there, it's good enough volume for you. It sounds a little low to me.
Of our commitment to the rule of law and renewal of that which we inherited and hope to pass on, unbroken, unshattered. With just 7 days left in the President's term, this vote is not about timing. It is about principle.
Correct? Yep. Mm-hmm.
And fidelity to our Constitution. It concerns
Speak
the
it.
clear and present danger facing our country, not only in these final days of the Trump administration, but in the weeks, months, and years that will follow. It is about the necessity to demonstrate to this generation and to future generations the duty we share to protect our democracy every single day. Do not pretend, my friends, that it was simply those who came into the Capitol, encouraged by our president to stop the steal at any cost. And by the way,
He literally said, at any
Vice
cost.
President doesn't do my bidding and follows the Constitution, sweep him
And the
away.
day before, he said Mike Pence has the power to
We
overturn
know
this
that this
vote.
president would never emulate George Washington and give up his power for the good of our republic, even after losing an election. Somebody talked about a peaceful transition. There has not been a peaceful transition. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not living in the same country I am. It was just days ago that the president, after committing this terrible act, thought he had to admit that Joe Biden might, yes, be president of the United States. We know that this president neither recognizes norms nor reflects the rule of law. We know that this president is not a patriot. So I ask this House.
Oh, wait, but he hugs the flag
who
all the
among us,
time.
Madam Speaker, will be recorded on the roll of history for their courage, their commitment, the Constitution, and their country. We do this today not for politics. We don't need this for politics. Georgia showed that. There was no mistake in this election. We do this today to preserve and protect this great democracy. We do it for the America we love, our America
Democracy.
the beautiful, whose founders' sacrifices we praise in song. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, Madam Speaker, as our current president, the appropriate words would be, who less than self his country loved, and victory more than truth. Vote for this, for America, for our Constitution, for democracy, for history. I yield back the balance of my time.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to
No
House
claps on the
Resolution 45,
Republican side of the
previous
aisle.
question is ordered on the resolution. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized. For what reason?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'd ask for a roll call vote.
Pursuant to Section 3S of House Resolution 8, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by an electronic device.
Okay. Here we go.
Less than 13 months since he was impeached the first time in December 2019, President Donald Trump is on the brink of being impeached again, this time for one article of incitement of insurrection for his actions before, during, and following last week's deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. The article saying, in part, President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions of government. He threatened the integrity of the democratic system, interfered with the peaceful transition of power, and imperiled a coordinate branch of government. He thereby betrayed his trust as president to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. You can read all of that at cspan.org/impeachment. In this vote, expected to be a lengthy one with some 64 members requesting proxy votes, 57 actually for this vote. We expect 7 Republicans to likely vote yes in favor of impeachment, including just announced in the last few minutes, Peter Meyer of Michigan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Ms. Strickland of Washington pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Strickland will vote yes on H-Res 24.
Gentleman from California seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as member designated by Congressmember Napolitano pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Congressmember Napolitano will vote yes on the H Resolution 24. And Madam Speaker, as member designated by Congressmember Costa pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Congressmember Costa will also vote yes on H-Res 24.
Gentleman from Texas seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Crenshaw, Texas, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Crenshaw will vote no on House Resolution 24.
What is up? What the fuck is this?
Recognition.
Madam Speaker,
Some
as the
weird
member
music.
designated by Ms. Custer of New Hampshire, pursuant to H-Res 8, I will inform the House that Ms. Custer will vote yea on House Resolution 24.
The gentleman from Tennessee seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Fleischman of Tennessee pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Fleischman will vote nay on H-Res 24. As the member designated by Mr. Desjardins of Tennessee pursuant to H-Res 8,
Desjardins, that is how
House
very
that Mr.
Tennessee of a
Desjardins
name.
will vote nay on H-Res 24.
Got a lot of hangnails. Because I bite my nails.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Bonnie Watson Coleman pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms.
New
Watson
Jersey.
Coleman will vote yes on H-Res 24. And as the member designated by Mr. Albio Series pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Series will vote yes on H-Res 24. And finally, as the member designated by Mr. Paul Tonko pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Tonko will vote yes on H-Res 24.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. LaTurner, Kansas, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. LaTurner will vote nay on House Resolution 24.
Purposes, the gentleman from Illinois seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Presley of Massachusetts pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Presley will vote yes on H-Res 24.
It'll probably go through. I'm gonna just call her out now. You know, because I'm such a qualified political commentator.
This is the gentleman from Connecticut seek recognition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I assume that it'll pass here easily, and then the
Pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Smith will vote yes.
and then in the
on
Senate,
24.
that's where it'll be difficult for it to pass. Just ban him from being president ever again. And take away all his money. That'd be cool too. You know?
I'll let them do.
Just take away his money.
Okay, you good? For what purpose is the gentlewoman from Illinois seek
I'm
recognition?
just saying.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Carson pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Carson will vote yes on H-Res 24.
Of course. The hell? I had like one big dust bunny on my mouse pad. I'm gonna leave it here for a few. Well, I guess I'll keep it up until the vote's over. Just don't feel like this is especially compelling content.
What purpose is the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
In 8 minutes, I'll do some videos, some cooking videos.
Denise Johnson, pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Chairwoman Johnson will vote yea on H-Res 24. As the member designated by Congressman Brendan Boyle, pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Congressman Boyle will vote yea on H-Res 24.
Yeah, see, the margins aren't really shrinking. I think it's going to be a pretty open and shut case here.
Oh. The gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Dr. Dunn of the state of Florida pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Dr. Dunn will vote nay on H-Res 24.
Florida,
As
just
the member designated
not surprising
by Mr.
anybody.
Buchanan from the state of Florida pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Buchanan will vote nay on H-Res
Florida
24.
continuing to be unsurprising. Guarantee you Trump had someone go around to every single
Thank you,
person
seek
in power in
recognition.
Florida and
Madam
say,
Speaker, as
if
the
you
member designated by Mr.
do anything to
Lawson,
piss me off, I
Florida
will remove
5th
Mar-a-Lago.
Congressional District, Pursuant to House Resolution 8, I'm informed that Mr. Lawson will vote yes on H.R. 24.
This is the gentleman from California seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Representative Michelle Steele, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Representative Michelle Steele will vote no on House Resolution 24.
Man, this royalty-free music sucks. But this is the one that has the most, or the biggest, amount of followers.
This is the gentleman from Nebraska seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Bill Rackus of Florida pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Bill Rackus will vote nay on HRES 24.
I'm going to use this time to look for some videos. As we all know, the second hour, or I guess second 45 minutes, is going to be for talking about cooking videos.
For what purposes the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition?
As a member designated by Representative Cardenas pursuant to H.R. 8, I inform the House Representative Cardenas will vote aye on H.R. 24. As a member designated by Representative Kirkpatrick pursuant to H.R. 8, I inform the House Representative Kirkpatrick will vote aye on H.R. 24.
Alright, so I think... Ow. I'll probably do... I'll probably look at analyzing some cooking tip videos. I feel bad always trying to rip Gordon Ramsay apart, but he does a lot of amateur mistakes. Cooking tricks chefs reveal only at culinary schools? What? Foodies. Yeah, we'll look at cooking tips videos. See how fucked up the advice is that people give. Oh, maybe we can do some cooking misconceptions. See if people have their facts right. Cooking. 5 tips from a professional chef to a young cook. The best cooking secrets real chefs learn in culinary school. 24 useful kitchen hacks. Wow, that'll be a good one. That'll be a good one. Didn't mean to sound so serial killer there, but here we are. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes. Alright, first video we'll look at should be a doozy. It is 24 useful kitchen hacks, smart tips and tricks from Art Kala. 8.5 million views. Tawa cleaning? Oh, this is Indian food. Okay. Well, I won't claim to know more about cooking Indian food because I am not well versed. Useful kitchen tricks to help you avoid cooking fails. That's a good one. That'll be real good.
This is the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition.
25 great ways to cook like a pro.
By Mr. Young of Alaska, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Young will vote nay on House Resolution 24. Thank you.
Oh, that's probably my chair. BRB.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Baird from Indiana pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Mr. Baird will vote no on H-Res 24.
No, it's another goddamn czar package for my wife.
Seek recognition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member designated by Mr. McEachin pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. McEachin will vote yes on House Resolution 24. And as the member designated by Ms. Porter pursuant to
She
H-Res
always
8,
buying shit.
I inform the House that Ms. Porter will vote yes on H-Res 24.
White women be shopping, as I believe they said in the 90s. And then in the 80s, it was women be shopping. And then in the 2000s, it was men be shopping. And then in the 2010s, it was trans women be shopping. I don't know. I don't know what the equivalent of women be shopping is these days. Oh, 15 cooking hacks and tips for beginners in the kitchen. Let me shit on you. "14 cooking secrets only used by restaurant chefs. 10 amazing kitchen tips and hacks." Sorry, I must extract an eyelash, as it has decided to curl directly into my eye. So it looks like the yays are going to have it. 130 still left to vote? Damn.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Bergman, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Bergman will vote no on final passage H-Rev 24. As the member designated by Mr. Lamborn, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lamborn will vote no on final passage H-Res 24.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
As the member designated by Ms. Franco pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Franco will vote yes on H-Res 24. As the member designated by Ms. Bonamici pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Bonamici will vote yes on H-Res 24.
This is a gentleman from Maryland seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Alma Adams of North Carolina pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Adams will vote.
I was wondering why that looked like I was able to pause it and then keep it going. Just confused about technology.
Purpose is the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition.
Madam Speaker.
Oh, God.
As the member designated by Ms. Titus of Nevada, pursuant to H-Res 8,
He sounds like a guy whose name would be Gerald.
I inform the House that Ms. Titus will vote yes on H-Res 24.
My dog is the noisiest licker. She gotta be all up in it. Forgive me for adjusting my mic if it's noisy at all. Forgive me for running off to find the one thing I have to do. And each night you can fall asleep ashore. Someday I'll be coming home.
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. DeSaulnier, pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. DeSaulnier will vote yes on HRES 24.
Reminder of everything I say.
Does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
As the member designated by Congressman Jerry McNerney pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. McNerney will vote yes on HRES 24.
Yeah, that should be a little bit better. Now I can see everything. I haven't actually taken the time to adjust everything just right so that it's comfortable for me. I just kind of...
Does the gentleman from Pennsylvania seek
just kind of flip the stream on,
Thank
and
you,
there we
Madam
go,
Speaker.
off to the
As a
races.
member designated by Mr. Doyle of Pennsylvania, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I hereby inform the House that Mr. Doyle will vote yes on House Resolution 24.
$85 left. Again, the margins are staying pretty consistent.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
As a member designated by Mr. Vella pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Vella will vote aye on HRES 24.
Gentlewoman from Michigan seek recognition.
As the member designated by Ms.
Gonna end up with hat
Ocasio-Cortez
hair
pursuant to House
again.
Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez will vote yes on
Because
House
I'm wearing
Res
a hat
24.
all day. Don't know why that's a mystery to me.
Does the gentlewoman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Schneider pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Schneider will vote yes on HRES 24.
Gentlewoman from Michigan seek recognition.
As the member designated by Ms. Lee of Nevada pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Ms. Lee will vote yea on HRES 24. As the member designated by Ms. Axney pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Ms. Axney will vote yes on HRES 24. As the member designated by Mrs. Dingle pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mrs. Dingle will vote yes on HRES 24. As the member designated by Ms. Capter pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Ms. Capter will vote yes on HRES 24.
Does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Deutsch of Florida, pursuant to HRES 8,
I inform the House that Mr. Deutsch will vote yes on HRES 24.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Mr. Hastings of Florida pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Hastings will vote yea on HRES 24.
Gentleman from Indiana seek recognition.
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Ms. Walorski pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Ms. Walorski will vote nay on HRES 24.
Oh no, I'm just noodling. I'm not doing anything in particular music-wise. So if that clashes too much, let me know. I don't want to overshadow what's going on. Only 40 left to go.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as a member designated by Mr. Blumenauer pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Blumenauer will vote yes on HRES 24. As a member designated by Mr. Liu pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Liu will vote yes on HRES 24. As a member designated by Mr. Lowenthal pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lowenthal will vote yes on HRES 24. As the member designated by Mr. Peters pursuant to HRES 8, I inform the House that Mr. Peters will vote yes on HRES 24.
I am indeed still there, C-SPAN. Oh no! Come on. How do I... Help. Oh my god. Did I really lose C-SPAN? Come on, man. Did the session go down? Did I lose it?
There are 433 members currently of the House,
Damn,
normally 435. At that number, now 221 voting in favor of impeachment. The resolution passes the second impeachment of President Donald Trump. One article of impeachment on incitement of insurrection. There are 9 Republicans voting yes so far, including and led by the GOP whip Liz Cheney. There may be a couple of more, including we expect possibly Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, and there they tick off one more, 10, and Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin.
As the member designated by Ms. Wilson pursuant to H-Res 8, I inform the House that Ms. Wilson will vote yes on H-Res 24.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Maryland seek recognition?
Madam Speaker, as the member designated by Ms. Jayapal pursuant to House Resolution 8, I rise to inform the House that Ms. Jayapal will vote aye on House Resolution 24.
Nine left. We're in the home stretch. Seven members left. So it's pretty obvious at this point that impeachment's going to go through to the Senate. And I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it until, what is it, the 21st or something like that? Anyway, that's it until then, really. So I guess I'll keep that kind of on in the background a little bit, but I'll move on to these videos. All right, so first I'm gonna look at. I would be considered a Democrat, I think is what it said on the quiz that I took a long time ago. I voted Democrat in this election, and I will likely vote Democrat in future elections unless something radical changes. I think I'd have to be very heavily influenced into something else. Or suffer a stroke to change my opinion. I'm not right, as in I'm not on the right side of the aisle, then yeah, you're correct. Ooh, that sounds like a truck. It might be my chair. Okay, so apparently, now, hold up, they're saying that, okay, so you're gonna have a whole free-range chicken. How to perfectly roast a chicken. Whole free-range chicken, I would recommend. Then you are anti-American. No, I am not anti-American, actually. I love this country. I have an American flag hat that I wear on occasion since Joe Biden is about to take over. So, no, I love the country. I started a business here. I made whatever money I made here. And I benefited most from Obama-era economics, so... yeah, I don't know why you would think that. What's up, Lucas? All right, so first and foremost, if you're talking about a chicken, where the chicken comes from is probably the most important thing. Now, free range has a lot of different meanings. And as far as the USDA is concerned, free range just means that you have to let it open the cage for a couple of minutes a day. But what I would recommend is that you go for watch the Super Size Me 2. I've never seen Super Size Me 2. I saw the first one. It was very informative. But I don't know much about the sequel. I don't really care about that. That's about food politics, not really that much. I'm more about procedure, Well, the only thing I can say about chickens, or at least the most important things I can say about chickens, is that you just want to make sure you get it from a reputable source. As long as it's not something has been in the news for, some shitty whatever they've done to their chickens, then it's all good. And if I can make a small recommendation for the type of chicken you get, I'd go for air chilled. If you see air chilled on the package, then chances are that's going to be a pretty fucking awesome chicken. So you don't need all these things for the perfect roast chicken. I wouldn't put more than simply salt and maybe a light brushing of oil on a chicken. The idea behind roasting it is that you want to reduce the amount of moisture in the overall elements to be cooked. And the question that people often face when they're trying to make a chicken. I can't even see where my camera's at right now. The question that people often face when they're trying to figure out how to cook a best or better chicken in their house is that they just try to put a bunch of shit on it. And what that does is it adds moisture, or it inhibits the escape of moisture. See, olive oil has some water content to it. So olive oil is going to have, or it inhibits water from escaping the actual, the flesh of the chicken. And we ask ourselves, how can we get a perfectly cooked, beautiful, juicy chicken with delicious, crispy skin? And the best way to do that is to eliminate moisture. So all this butter, pepper, and salt draws moisture out to the surface of the skin, which makes it less likely to get crispy. No, absolutely not. That butter spread or margarine or whatever is literally oil and water whipped together to form a butter-like consistency. So I wouldn't go just inundating a chicken with moisture before you put it in the oven. That's the wrong thing to do. You can brine a chicken, but even then that oh my god, they are just crusting it in herbs. What's going to happen with all of that is it's going to burn. Like, it's going to taste bitter. And why would you want to put that much dry spices in your mouth at the same time? So now the skin's going to be inedible. Okay, or he just rubbed all of the herbs off? Oh, thank God, this is a spoof. Oh my God. Oh, thank God. Oh, it was a meme the whole time. Yeah, give me more of this. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad I just got debated. Oh, I'm so glad. This is like injecting life directly into my veins. What the fuck is happening right now? This is supposed to be how to cook a chicken. See, now that's too much moisture. It's not gonna come out crispy like that. Where's Carlton from? Carlton Dry?
Hey guys, how are you all doing? Today I'm not gonna show you any recipe. Instead, I'll be showing you some very useful.
I've never seen anything like that before.
The chair announces that pursuant to Section 3A of House Resolution 41, the House Resolution 40 is hereby adopted.
There we go. All right, so we knew this was going to happen.
The chair announces the Speaker's appointment pursuant to Clause 11 of Rule 10, Clause 11 of Rule 1, in the order the following of the House of January 4th, 2021, of the following members of the House to the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
So, at the very least, the House has voted to impeach the president for the second time in history, or for the second time in his term, and for the second time of any president's term in history. So there is at least precedent set. And even if it doesn't pass in the Senate, Or no, the Senate already passed it? No, because McConnell they had to do something. They're reconvening after Biden is inaugurated, so.
Pursuant
Anything else?
to Section 5A, 1B of House Resolution 8, the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. on Friday, January 15th, 2021.
There you go.
21.
That's it. Dear. Ugh.
14 culinary secrets used only by restaurant chefs.
Okay, let's see how many
We
of
at
these I've
Brightside
actually
love
used.
overcoming challenges. That's why we've collected 14 of the most useful culinary hacks that will not only save your time and ease
Hacks?
your nerves, but also boost your skills in the kitchen. Do you want to know
Now,
how to cook a
I don't know
perfect piece of bacon?
if this is a
Prevent
wide
the sliced
saying,
cake from
but
getting stale. And make sure that
we
knife
usually say
won't
that
slip
hacks are
and
the only
cut you
ones that
while
use
you're
hacks.
using it. Watch this video and you'll be in the know. Hit the like
don't know if
button
other chefs
you
say
come
that.
across a tip you've never heard of. Number 14, frying perfect hamburger patties. If you want your burger to fry fast and evenly, form a dimple in the center of the patty before throwing it on the pan. It'll
True,
disappear by the
but
time the
you don't
burgers
need to
are
do that.
ready,
No chef
since they
does that.
even out while they cook. And this simple trick
Chefs don't do
will
that.
cut down the cooking time and prevent that annoying, weird burger bubbling we've all witnessed at one time or another.
No chef I've
Number
ever known does
13,
that.
Cutting a nice piece of cake. You're probably all too familiar
You run
with
your
the
wife
problem
under,
of cake
wife.
sticking to the knife
You run your
when
knife
you slice
underwater.
it. You always get that mini panic attack as you watch the beauty of your dessert being ruined.
You
by
run the
your
knife
own
under hot water.
To
Or you have
avoid
a
this
tub of hot water
catastrophe,
near
put
you.
the knife under hot running water, hold it there for some time, and then cut your cake. This
Or if you
simple
have a
gesture
blowtorch.
will prevent the sweet goodness from sticking to the blade.
You take the knife and you use a
Number
blowtorch.
12,
You go along the
making a
knife
lemon
until
juice
it's
spray.
fairly
It's
hot.
actually pretty easy to make your own lemon juice spray. Stick a small spritzer into a lemon and it'll work
That's
just
dumb
like
as fuck.
any other
Nobody
kitchen
does
bathroom
that.
spray pump. If it
I
feels like the liquid inside has run out, squeeze the lemon and you'll get more juice out of it.
we would laugh so hard if
Number
somebody
11,
did this on the
determining
line.
portion sizes
No
with
chef
your
does
hand.
that.
Sometimes you don't have a kitchen scale on hand, but the recipe calls
This is
for
you.
exact measurements.
You can
No
actually
worries.
cup your hand
Just
to get
use
a
your own
rough
hand
idea
to
of
measure
what
out the portions you need.
of
When
what a
we're
portion
talking
is.
about things like butter, margarine, or mayonnaise, your fingernail will help you out. Its size equals 1 teaspoon of these types of ingredients.
I've never heard of that
to
before.
weigh fish or meat, put it on the palm of your hand. If it fits just within the palm, it weighs about 3.5 ounces.
I'm sorry,
if you
what?
really need to determine the correct
Okay, no chef
portion of
on a
chips
line
or crackers you
or
have,
cooking or
again,
whatever
pour
would
them out into your palms.
would
2
ever
handfuls of these crunchy
think about.
delights
And why
will
is this
equal
person not
about
cutting their
1 ounce.
fingernails?
Or you
No
could just
chef
eat the whole
would
bag.
have nails that
Nobody's
long
judging.
ever.
1 handful of pasta, rice, or beans will be the same as half
That's
a
not.
cup of
Nobody
these
remembers all these
products. The size of
sizes.
your thumb will equal 1 or 2
Nobody's gonna remember
tablespoons of
every
cheese
single
or
bit
peanut
of their
butter.
hand
And
how to
finally,
measure with
get
each
the right
little bit of
measurement
their hand.
grains,
That's the
soup,
dumbest shit I've ever
fruits,
heard.
And vegetables, remember that 1 fist is the same as 1 cup of these foods.
That's.
Number 10.
There's no
preventing
way.
the knife from
That's
slipping.
so much more than a
The
cup.
kitchen can be an area of heightened danger, especially when you're dealing with sharp objects like knives. You should always keep knife handles clean and grease-free. But if you want to take extra care to stop
But
your
just
knife
don't put
from
them in
slipping,
the dishwasher.
Wrap some rubber bands around the handle.
What?
Number 9.
Chefs don't do that
Figuring
either.
out how sour a lemon is. There's one simple trick here.
Taste
the
it.
thinner the peel, the more sour the lemon. Armed with this knowledge, you can go to the grocery store and
There are
confidently
millions
choose the
and
best
millions
option
and
for your
millions
citrus
of
fruit
different
needs.
variations
If its outer shell
and
feels a bit soft,
mutations
its sourness
and
is somewhere
different
in the middle
defects
of
and
the
things
range,
like that.
while the harder
Growers
lemons
using
will
different
bring
methods,
tears to
different
your eyes.
pesticides, different environmental
Number 8,
factors
frying a
that all
sausage.
play into
If you fry
what
sausages
makes
in a pan,
a lemon
you
a
might
lemon.
face the problem of uneven cooking. To deal with this issue and to fry them uniformly, both inside and out, make small cuts along the sausage.
Don't do that. There's no reason to do that. You only if it has a skin on it. That is very obviously a hot
Number
dog.
7,
That is
checking if
skinless.
an egg is fresh. You open your fridge
Nobody.
and
Nope.
skeptically observe the eggs
You
on
order
the shelf.
eggs
How
and
long have they
you
been in
crack
there?
them
Are
and
they still
that's
good
it.
to
Nobody.
fry with bacon?
looks at
simple visual
the quality
test
of the
will
eggs.
help you check if you
If
missed
you get
your
a bad
chance
egg,
to
you
have
know
a
you have a bad
delicious
egg because it
piece of
smells or
steak
because there's
following.
blood inside of it.
Crack an egg onto a white plate and pay attention to the egg white and
Do you
yolk.
think any chef
If
is
they're a
doing
bit
this?
Too much on the runny side,
In,
this egg
like,
isn't
are
as
you?
fresh as it should be.
Is
Also,
a chef
if it
when he
doesn't
gets an
have
order
any
for an
green,
egg? Is
gray,
he
or black spots?
taking a
Probably
plate
still
and cracking an egg onto the bottom of the plate to make sure that each one is
Number
fresh? No,
6, keeping a sliced
that's
cake
not a thing.
fresh. If you've recently got a delicious cake for your birthday
Freeze it.
but can't manage to eat it all at once, don't worry. There's one very creative way
Freeze
to
it.
prevent it from getting stale.
Freeze
Attach
it.
slices of toast to the cut edges of the cake using toothpicks. This way, your lovely pastry will be safely protected until you get the urge to cut into it again.
I
Number 5.
don't know who
Calculating
would
the
do
time needed
anything
to
like
boil a
that.
perfect egg.
That's not that.
Are you
Only a
picky
hack
one
would use
when it
that
comes
hack.
to how
Again,
you
like I said.
your hard-boiled eggs? Then you'll find this tip
Use
to
an egg
be
timer.
Excellent. Be honest, you like that one. Boil
Use
an
an egg
egg
timer.
for 2 minutes if you like the yolk thin and runny with the white on the runny side.
Use an
too.
egg timer.
4 minutes if you prefer a completely cooked white with thick runny yolk.
Use an
6
egg timer.
minutes if you want an egg with a completely cooked white.
Use an egg
with
timer.
mostly cooked yolk, though still a bit runny in the very middle.
Use an egg timer.
8 minutes if your favorite egg is one with a fully cooked
Use an
white
egg
and
timer.
a soft yolk. 10 minutes if you like both the yolk
Use
and
a
the white
fucking
cooked
egg timer.
completely to their max. Number 4, store
They're
it
like 80 cents.
It's better to store leafy
Put a damp
greens
towel
wrapped
on
up
top
in
of 'em.
foil as it holds the right amount of moisture inside. This way, your delicious healthy
No.
greens will stay fresh much longer.
No. Aluminum is
3,
reactive.
cooking the
It'll
perfect bacon.
make your greens
The
wilt.
secret to cooking the perfect bacon is simple. Bake
Don't
your
ever wrap
bacon.
your greens in foil.
You
My
need to
God,
preheat your
that's
oven
not only
to
a waste of
400
foil, but it'll
degrees
ruin your
Fahrenheit
greens.
and place the bacon on a piece of
Simply
foil.
put them in a
Bake it for 12
deep
minutes.
dish,
Make it 15
make
to
sure they have
20 minutes so
moisture,
bacon is
and
thick.
put a wet
Then
paper
get your
towel
tongs
laid
out and
directly
transfer
over
it
them
onto a plate
and a thin
covered
layer
with
of
a
plastic,
towel
and that
to let
they'll
it
keep for
drain
like
and
6 or
finish
7
getting
days.
crispy.
What do you say?
Number 2.
What do you say?
Reheat
What do you say?
and place
What the
bacon
fuck did you
on a
say?
piece of foil. Bake it for 12 minutes. Make it
Oh, yeah,
15
yeah,
to
bake your
20 if
bacon,
the bacon
yeah.
is thick. Then get your tongs out and
Don't time
transfer
it. Pull it
onto
when
a
it's
plate
done.
covered with
Just
a
keep your eye on
towel
it. Don't walk
to
away
let it
from it.
drain and finish getting crispy.
When you take it
Number
out,
2,
set it on
reheating
something
pizza.
so that it
If you've
slants
cooked up a nice homemade pizza,
the
let's be honest,
pan
the
and
delivery
lets
guy
all the
just
fat
brought
drain.
it piping hot, but it's managed to get cold while you're so
375
politely
degree
waiting
oven.
for family or friends to
No
arrive,
foil, no covering.
Simply throwing it back into the oven to reheat won't work.
Yes, it will.
Your perfect pizza will quickly become drier and tougher than it was when it just came out.
Who's
of the
ordering
oven.
pizza
But
from
there
this
is
place?
one trick that'll help. To reheat pizza properly,
Any decent
spray
pizza,
it with
you
some
simply.
water before heating it
Oh
up
my
in the
God!
oven.
No, you don't
Nobody
have to do
will
that.
ever know
You
the
simply
difference.
put it directly in the oven, 375.
Number
Any
1,
piece of
cutting
Domino's
steak
pizza,
or
you
recipe.
stick it in the oven,
Meat lovers,
375,
listen up.
5 minutes, and
Cut
it's good to
your
go.
steak against the grain. This way it won't tear apart, and you'll get perfect slices. Plus, your meat will become easy
That
to
is
chew.
fucking
And it's no wonder you've
cooked
already
beyond
done the hardest
recognition.
work and broken
Whatever
up
that
the
is.
muscle fibers.
That looks boiled.
Bonus. If you're the type of person who can appreciate the taste of an Oreo cookie dipped in a cold glass of milk, aren't we all? Here's a trick for you. To dip the whole cookie in the glass and avoid getting your fingers covered in crumbs or milk, use a fork. Stick the prongs between the top and
Are
bottom
chefs
of the cookie
known
where its
for
creamy
dipping
deliciousness is found.
Oreos into milk?
for
Is
as
that
long
like a
as your little
quintessentially
heart
chef thing? And he didn't even put the whole thing in milk.
Other cooking tips
He
that
still
even
left
the
some.
world's top
That you
chefs
could have
still
used the
know?
tip of your fingers to do
Show off
that.
your knowledge in the comments below. Also, be sure to share this video with
Oh,
the
boy.
amateur chefs in your life. If these
Yeah, I like doing this. I like these videos.
Hi guys.
I already like all the stuff I was seeing in that clip
cooking
there.
Hacks. For those of you who are total beginners and new to cooking, or if you're just wanting to learn a few more tricks and
Teach
tips,
me. I'm
then
ready.
I
I
have
wanna learn.
15 cooking hacks for you in today's video. So when
Do
I
it.
met my boyfriend, he had no idea how to cook pasta, which I was very shocked by.
I love
But
hearing
think
about people
that a lot
teaching
of us
themselves
maybe
stuff.
are completely new to cooking
Or teaching
new
other
to
people
making our own food in the kitchen, And
This is the equivalent, though, of those food blog recipes that you look for online, and then they tell you their entire life story and how the dinner went without even mentioning the recipe until the bottom of the page. The same fucking shit right here. Same shit. Just tell me what I need to put in the dish. Just tell me the tips. Tell me the tips. Now shut up and tell me the tips.
Today, which is Friday, through until Monday, the 22nd of January, making them only
This video has 153,000 views. It is by the user Madeline Olivia. So go and check her out if you like what you're seeing.
The first thing is how to cook rice. I've had this
I like this video so far. It's good so
quite
far.
a lot in my recent recipe videos, and I have a foolproof way of how to make the fluffiest, perfect rice every single time, and it requires
Boil
no
it, bake it in the oven.
measuring. So my mum taught me this, and it is essentially
Boil
the
it, bake it in the
absorption
oven.
method. So all you want to do is pour the rice in the pan. You can rinse it beforehand if you'd like to. When the rice is in the
You
pan,
should.
you
You
wanna
don't.
fill up the
You should
pan
rinse
with some water.
rice. Good
So
rice
the key here
and
is
crappy
the
rice.
amount
You
of
should
water
rinse.
You're filling up.
Doesn't matter though.
Basically, you want to be filling it up to a thumb's width above the rice, and therefore you don't need
Yep.
to measure anything out. You're just doing it by eye. I use boiling water from the kettle just because it saves time. But if you don't have a kettle or you can't be bothered to do that,
Yeah, hot water is always a really good idea.
So when the water
Hot
is
water,
a thumb's width above the rice,
you
then
put
want to turn it
up
on
to
and
here,
bring it to a boil.
up to there,
Once it's reached a
always,
boil, turn it down a bit
always up
so
to
that
there.
it's just simmering, and wait for the water to reach the level of the rice. You'll notice tiny little holes coming out of the rice, and that's
Okay.
the indication that the water is reaching
That's a
the same
very,
level.
very classic
And
way
at
of
this point,
cooking
you
it.
want to put the lid on
Yep.
the rice and turn off
Steam
the
it.
heat completely. When the heat
It's
is off,
called
don't
no
move it,
peak.
leave
I don't
it
know if she
there,
mentioned that.
and
It's called
you
no
just
peak.
basically wait for the rice to steam. This will
Mhm.
take approximately 5 to 15 minutes. Honestly, I don't actually time this because it's so easy.
You just
can
you
leave
just
it
do
to
it when
its
it's
thing.
done.
So to check it's cooked, basically just take off the lid and have a look and see if all the water is absorbed. You can just put your fork in there and just have a little look. And then
It also helps to fluff it up, but
with
yep,
the fork.
yep.
This is the best way to fluff rice.
Yeah,
so that you
she's
don't get any
100%
clumps or
accurate.
anything.
Good, she's
And
doing good.
You should have the most perfect cooked rice.
So one thing I'll add to that is that you can actually do this in a baking sheet or like a 2-inch deep, any kind of vessel that you have, a pie tin, anything that's 2 inches deep at least, if you're making rice for just a couple of people, 4 to 6 servings, I believe. You then just take your rice and you put it at the bottom of that vessel, and you put as close to boiling water as you're comfortable handling in there until it reaches about that deep. And then you season it, put whatever flavorings in there that you want, butter, any kind of herbs and things like that. And then you take some plastic and you wrap it tight with plastic, and then you take foil and you wrap it tight with foil. After that, put it into a 325 degree oven for 40 minutes. Don't look at it, don't check on it, don't stir it, nothing. 325 degrees, 40 minutes. That's it. Perfectly cooked rice. Every time. Then you have the stovetop clear for other things.
I like to drizzle lemon in my rice because it makes it taste even more delicious. This can be super annoying
talk about
if
garlic.
you don't know how, but there are 2 ways here to do it really easily. The first way is to cut off the ends of the garlic and then simply squish it with the side of your knife. It works best with a really big, thick knife, and you just push down gently and it should crush the garlic.
You
don't wanna
can,
crush it
that
too much,
if you're only doing
just enough
2,
that it kind of breaks.
then do that.
And you should find that the garlic skin
But if you need to
should
do a
come
whole
off
head of
all in one
garlic,
piece.
then you're going to
The
want
second
to
way
do
is
the method
to,
where you...
again, chop the ends of the garlic cloves off and then put it in a
Yeah,
Tupperware
what she's doing.
container. Shake the Tupperware container up a few times, give it a good shake.
Okay, you
and
want
then
to shake
the
it
skin
a
should either
lot
come completely
more
off by
vigorously
itself
than
or
that.
it should come off all
Like
in
you
one
want to
go.
shake it until you think that the container's going to
Now
break.
moving on to ginger. I had for the longest
Scrape the skin
time
off with a
chopped
spoon.
ginger with a knife, and it just takes off so much extra ginger. and
Scrape
it's
the skin
real
off with a
waste.
spoon,
So the best way to do it
and
is
then
with
you
a
use-
spoon.
yeah.
It's really, really simple. All you have to do is
Take the
scrape
skin
off
off,
the skin with the spoon,
and then you can
you're not wasting
and then you can also scrape what you need with a spoon, or
so the base
you can use
to
a
a lot of
microplane.
meals is onion and garlic. It really brings a lot of flavor to the dish.
It is also
and
one
I
of the
tend to
best
cook it with
smells in
pretty
the
much
world
every
when you're
single
cooking
meal that I
onion
make.
and
So you
garlic
wanna
with
start
some
out
butter.
by putting a little bit of oil in the pan, not too much. You really don't need as much as you think. And waiting for that to heat up. Add in your onion and cook it on a medium heat until it goes translucent. So the trick is to not add in the garlic and the onion at the same time. I do this still sometimes just because I'm feeling lazy, but it does make it taste better, and it saves you from accidentally burning the garlic and making the whole dish taste bitter. So when the onion is translucent, all you have to do is simply add in the garlic and continue frying it.
Another hack here is to not add in more oil when the pan is getting a bit dry. Just try adding in some water. It really helps to deglaze the pan and stop it from
Water is the
burning,
most
and also
important
just save you
ingredient that
using
you can
extra
have in your
oil
kitchen.
your dish.
And
I
it's
also
so
like to use a
underappreciated.
non-stick pan to make things a lot easier.
Use water.
Tasty, spicy
Need to
meal,
loosen up a
then you
sauce?
wanna add in the
Use
spices
water. You
at
need to
this
help marry
point.
pasta flavor together
It's
with
easy
its
to just
condiment?
chuck it all in one
Use
go,
water.
plug everything in. But if you add the spices in at the start of your cooking, then it will really bring
Toast.
so much flavour to the dish.
Comes from
you wanna
Indian
fill
cooking.
the kitchen with the beautiful aroma of the spices by frying it in the pan for about
Those
2 to 5
colonial
minutes
English
before you start adding
bastards!
the liquids. So if you're using mushrooms in your meal, this is
Terrible
the time
knife
to put them
technique.
in. Mushrooms have a really high water content.
Terrible
so you
knife
don't want to be
technique.
adding them in with all of the other
All over the place.
liquids and later on, because it will end up making the sauce or whatever it is you're cooking mushy. You want to put it in first before you start adding other stuff, because then it will release all the water. The mushrooms tend to shrink down really, really significantly, and it brings so much more flavour and makes the dish a lot more delicious.
Agreed. With the caveat that I would do some mushrooms ahead of time. Button mushrooms, like the ones that she's cooking right there, have very, very little flavor on their own. They don't contribute a hell of a lot. But what you can do is you can concentrate that flavor. You can make them like little bombs of mushroom flavor if you want. I didn't mean to shake the table, but it felt really appropriate just then. You can make them little flavor bombs of mushroom goodness. And what you would do is you would take your mushrooms, you would put them in a blazing hot pan with no oil, no seasoning, nothing. Just put them in a blazing hot pan. Like, get your pan so hot, and you want a heavy bottom pan for this. Get your pan so hot that it looks like it's about to burst into flames. Then put your mushrooms in dry and season them. Like put a nice amount of salt in there, still dry, still completely dry. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a little bit of butter, like a knob of butter, and then you're going to take some oil, like just a good amount of oil, enough to coat the mushrooms evenly. And you're going to mix them together, just a little cursory mix, like don't worry about getting them fully incorporated. And you're then going to pour them in. Now they're going to sputter and spatter, and it might scare you if you're not used to it, but you want to stir until the mushrooms are coated, and then reduce that heat to about medium. Now you're going to leave it alone. You're not going to touch it for about 8 minutes. Once you get to 8 minutes, you're going to take a splash of water and you're going to deglaze the pan, because whatever's at the bottom is going to be some good stuff there. You're going to deglaze the bottom of that pan, and then you're going to let them simmer for about, I don't know, I'd say about another 8 minutes. You crank the heat back up, and you evaporate all of that liquid that you just introduced in there until they start sautéing again. Okay? You're going to hear like it's going to simmer, and then it's going to cook down. You're going to hear them start to saute again. You're going to hear that frying noise. Then at that point, you put a nice heavy knob of butter in there, and you let the flavor marry a little bit, and you let that liquid start to cook down, and you let it start to evaporate. By the time it's all cooked down and everything's said and done, you're going to have beautiful golden brown, delicious butter-coated mushrooms that have had a chance to let that moisture leach out of them and come back in after it has been concentrated, like twofold, fourfold. So you're going to have like the epitome of just the most umami, savory, mouth-wateringly delicious mushroom goodness that you can then add to any dish that you want. You can add it to soup, you can add it to whatever. You can even pickle it. You can pickle those mushrooms, and you then add a delicious sour contrast to the concentrated umami flavor. Just an additional little tip on top of that.
So I see a lot of people adding sauce on top of their pasta when they serve it up. But the best way to do it is to add it all
Like the
in
music
together
soundtrack.
in the pan before you serve up. So this is the traditional way to do it. This is how Italians do it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're making a simple tomato pasta, some kind of arrabbiata sauce, you want to add the
Beautiful.
spaghetti or the penne or whatever
I like the look of that
pasta
sauce.
you're using
What she was doing with those
into
mushrooms.
a big pan together with the sauce and give it a good mix. Put it on a low heat and
I
do it
see
when the
what she
pasta
did
is out
here.
there.
Okay. This is genius what she did. She figured out like a whole dish that would allow her to do all the content for her video in one go. and then she did it procedurally. That's pretty cool. I like that method. I might steal that. That's a good idea.
Okay, not when it's completely cooked, because it will cook through and it will make all of the pieces of pasta coat
Dude, yep.
in the
Finish your
delicious
pasta
flavour.
in the pan with the sauce. Yes.
So this is something I used to do at uni a lot. It's putting a jacket potato in the microwave before cooking it in the oven.
I don't know what a
You're
jacket
really
potato is.
craving
Is that just a roasted
beautiful,
potato?
fluffy jacket potato, but you don't have the time to wait for an
that just
hour
baked
for it to cook
potato?
in the oven, then give this a go. So all you need to do is pierce the potato on both sides.
It
and then
sounded
put
like
it
she
in your
said
microwave
piss.
for around 6 to 8
Piss
minutes,
the
depending on
potato.
the size of your jacket potato. You'll know it's ready to go when it starts.
That's a really
to get
cool
soft and
little
it
effect
starts to
there
crackle
on
up a
the
little bit.
microwave.
So
I've never
take
seen
it
that
out of
before.
your microwave and then shove it in the oven at around 200 degrees Celsius for about 10 to 15 minutes. And voila, you have a delicious jacket potato.
200 degrees
in
Celsius, that's
so
like
much less time.
375 for us Yankee scum. That looks good. I'd have that.
An excellent
I like baked potatoes.
alternative to salt, or just as an extra flavouring to your meals. There isn't a meal that
This
I cook
is
that I
why
don't put
yesterday
lemon
I
juice
talked
in it,
about
so
using
give it a go.
Tabasco
Speaking of
for
lemons, if your lemon is particularly
something that you
hard
want to
and
build
you
complex
can't
flavor
squeeze it very
profiles
easily,
in,
this often happens with
because it
limes
has both the
especially,
tart
just
and the
stuff it in
heat
microwave
that is
for around 10
missing
to 20
from
seconds, and it'll make it
a complete
lot
flavor
easier
profile from a lot of
all that
things.
delicious
So what
juice.
she's saying is basically the same thing.
So if you really
Adding
need
a
to ripen some
sour
fruit
note to
fast,
something
if you're
really
craving some
does
avocado
change
toast for breakfast the next day,
how it
then all
works.
you have to do is shove in some bananas with your fruit. The gas, I think it's called ethylene, in bananas will help ripen whatever fruit is nearby faster. If you really, really hate green vegetables, then the best thing to do is to add frozen spinach to everything and anything. I love to add a little cube of frozen spinach.
Yeah, it
to my
doesn't
smoothies in the
doesn't
morning,
contribute any
or you
flavor.
add them
It doesn't.
to curries or stews.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to
Add
get
it's
some green vegetables into your food and your
boosting
meals
that,
without really
boosting that green. She says it. She's saying it. I don't have to. She's saying it. It's
meal
good.
prep tip,
It's
and
true.
that is
Everything
frozen
she's saying is
herbs.
correct.
All you need to do is chop up a big bunch
And
of
that
herbs,
is
shove
a
them in your
decent
ice tray
idea.
with some
I
water
would
on
leave
top
some of those
and
stems
freeze
out
them.
though. Got a lot of stems in there. It's okay.
All you need to do is take out the ice cube with the herbs in it as and when
Yeah.
you need them, shove them into the pan,
Easy
they'll
peasy.
melt down and make your meal a lot more delicious and save you a lot of time. So I hope you enjoyed those
Not bad.
cooking hacks and tips. If you did enjoy it, then give this video a big thumbs up, because I had so
I will.
many more up my
Boom.
sleeve. I just didn't want to make this video really, really long.
I'm even gonna
Let me know
say
in the comments down
loved
below if you
these
have any cooking hacks or tips that you
tips.
use on a regular basis, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Hashtag keep on cooking, y'all. There we go. Perfect. All right. Well, I can't get to these. It is 2 o'clock, and yet again, my wife has said that she's coming home early. Pleasant surprise for me. Bad news for the stream. Just means I have to end it an hour early, which is fine. I may stream tomorrow. I may not. Usually Thursdays and Fridays are my me days, my getting shit done around the house days. But if I don't know, if this continues to grow, it's growing steadily. If people keep coming to watch and hanging out and stuff, then I'll keep streaming. But you know, I need a reason to not have my current schedule. But as it is, if you're still here, thank you for stopping by, and thank you for, I guess, listening to the sounds of my sexy voice up to now. And I hope to see you again soon. And Peppy says bye too.